Hey, happy Monday. Welcome to the Wise Guys, the largest BYU live stream show in the entire world, presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. I'm Dave McCann. That is Blaine Fowler. We are happy to have you with us. Our new podcast will be out tomorrow. It's a culmination of what this show is. Clips from YouTube last week, from our stuff from last week alone, over 12,000 views. So thank you for that. We're growing, and we encourage you to help us grow even more. And our live stream's already hot and hopping tonight. We've got so much going on, and we got so much waiting for everybody at our email location.
Yeah, please be sure to subscribe for our free email at wiseguys.com, ysguys.com. You can also watch, when you go to that website, you can look at all of our past content that's there. Phenomenal interviews last week. Wasn't that a fun show last week?
Yeah.
So fun.
Giff Nielsen and Chad Lewis, tough to beat.
So fun. And you know what? Both those guys were right on the money with what they talked about for the Kansas State game, what BYU needed to do and what they did do. So they helped us with the preview and all of that. So that was fun. But we've got 2.5 years of content out there with phenomenal guests. No show affiliated with BYU has had the guest list that we've had. So take a look, scroll down at the past content. We'd also like to hit the subscribe button on your YouTube channel. So if you're joining us from YouTube, or if you go and download it tomorrow on YouTube, make sure you subscribe there as well. All of this stuff is free. And if you help subscribe and do all of that, it helps us keep this thing rolling into the future for a long, long time.
We have 777 video clips waiting for you on our YouTube channel.
Isn't that wild? 770.
That's insane.
777.
Wise Guys.
Isn't that good in Vegas?
Yeah, I think sevens are good.
777, isn't that like a jackpot?
If you're on a 777, you're going somewhere exotic.
Yeah, that's a big plane, but I think it's also a jackpot of some kind.
It's got to be some kind of jackpot. Seems like I'd know that.
Yeah.
But I don't. I do know that Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus. Brady Plus provides cleaning, food service, and packaging equipment, dispensers and service and repairs with over 150 distribution facilities across the country and over 6,000 employees. The president is a friend of ours. He's a BYU alum, and we are so thrilled to have Brady Plus attached to our Wise Guys name. And if you look over my left shoulder, we want to welcome the Deseret News to the board. Deseret News is our distributor at Deseret.com, Utah's newspaper since 1850. Watch for our content on their social media sites as we serve Cougar Nation all over the world. So it's presented by Brady Plus, and there it is, distributed by the Deseret News.
I like how you're like
the Vanna White.
Well, you have to be like Tiffany Coyne. So Tiffany's my niece that is the co-host with Wayne Brady on, is it Let's Make a Deal? Or The Price is... No, it's Let's Make a Deal. Is it The Price is Right?
No, I think it's Let's Make a Deal.
Yeah, anyhow. So Tiffany's on there. That's my niece, in case you were wondering.
Hey, David from Columbia, Maryland is in the house. Vernal, Utah's here. Let's see. I saw North Carolina.
Vegas always in the house.
Vegas, Portland, Oregon. All right.
See, Neil was first up. Vernal. We're
off to a good start.
Columbia, Maryland checking in already. Yeah. So we got the East Coast with David Woodruff in the house.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're always going for 5 continents. And in one of these days, we're going to see if we can get 50 states in the house. All 50 states and 5 continents. That's all we're asking for.
We may have to bring in, Ridgecrest is with us. We're going to have to bring in an assistant just to chart all the states that Wise Guys is in. But that would be fun. You see what
Rob says? I'm here from Ridgemont. On Saturday, I put on blue socks, blue shoes, blue jeans, and a blue and white shirt. And also on Friday, he ordered the BYU Peanuts t-shirt. He says, I'm sure all of that did it. So he's taking credit for the win.
Hey, make sure you wear all that again on Saturday.
Yeah, if it worked,
don't take any chances.
Don't mess with fate. Make sure you do it again.
We have an awesome show tonight. BYU rocks Kansas State. They start their prep for Baylor. We're going to hear from Kalani Sitake in just a few minutes.
Yeah, former Cougar and BYU Radio football analyst Hans Olsen will join us with what BYU has to do to keep this thing going. Hans will be fun.
Yeah.
I saw a comment from him, and I want to ask him why, but he said it's the best environment he's ever seen at a football game. And he played in a bunch of big environments.
It was so cool.
At BYU, in the NFL, and
it was so cool.
Yeah,
our alumni reps, Dave and Debbie Talbot, they came up here and went to the game. Then they went back home to Texas. They're going to hop on with us. They're in charge of all the alumni activities in and around Waco this weekend. So that's going to be, we're going to hear from them in just a little bit as well. But I was texting, I go, man, it was a great game. They go, yeah, I know, we were there. And now we're back to Texas.
It's awesome. We're excited to have them. And I almost wore my BYU Texas shirt, but I know that was from the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter. I don't know if the Austin chapter that's responsible for this Baylor game has shirts. We'll have to ask them if they have those, because we'll definitely wear them if they want to. Hey, BYU Gal SoCal is in.
Nice. Naperville, Illinois is in.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. And Bullseye says, you know what? I've been in the best mood for the last 44 hours or so. Funny how the outcome of a game can determine my mood. Go Cougs.
Bullseye, I don't know who you are, but let me just speak on behalf of everyone you're around. Thank you. They are so happy that you're in a good mood.
Absolutely.
Let's hope it keeps going. Some scheduling news. BYU and Baylor, Saturday morning, 10 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time. That's the other side of the day we were on Saturday night over at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. It'll be televised on FS1, BYU Sports Nation Game Day with all the guys. That'll start at 8 a.m.
Which means you're going to have to be in studio at 6 a.m.
It's going to be like going to a real job.
Yeah. John Crowder says he's still hyperventilating from Saturday night out in Harriman. So we are too, John.
The Mackeys from Montana. Dallas is in. Good to have everybody here. Game days on BYU TV and ESPN Plus. Post-game show on BYU TV as soon as it's over. You know, the Cougs are 24-3 in night games in their last 27. And then this week, the other side of the day. So maybe they can start a new trend.
I don't remember them ever playing in the morning. Like, this is actually a morning kick.
Yeah, 11 a.m. local time.
Have we? I don't remember in my mind. Maybe there is, and somebody can research it for us. But I don't remember a morning kick. So there's no precedent here, which is good. That means they're just 0 for 0, and it's time to start a new trend.
Let's start one.
BYU doesn't lose at night or in the morning.
Hey,
mid-afternoons is a different story.
Yeah, that's a whole new thing.
Different story.
Beaumont, Texas is here. Roseville, California. You get the feeling that Cougar Nation is flying high.
Oh yeah, everybody.
If
you didn't love the game, I don't care if you're watching on TV or in the arena. If you were at the stadium, wow.
Yeah, it was a special place.
That was something. So everybody ought to be riding high, and expectations were so low. Not from us. You know, we always said that the national pundits never dig deep enough to understand what BYU's got coming back from missions that gray shirted last year and weren't around. You know, they didn't take into account that, you know, that 7 first-year transfers starting on offense last year, 6 of which are back this year for the second year. That they obviously discounted the fact that Jay Hill is in year 2 with all these guys on his defense. Let's face it. BYU's way better than anybody expected they were, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
It's a lot of fun.
So it is really, really fun, and everybody's optimistic.
Golden Dale, Washington, checking in tonight here on the Wise Guys. BYU's checking into the AP and the coaches' top 25 polls.
That's right. They appear at number 22, 1 spot ahead of Kansas State and 1 spot behind Oklahoma in the AP top 25. And then in the coaches' poll, they are also at number 22, 1 spot ahead of UNLV. And 1 spot behind Illinois. How about UNLV? That's, you know, you and I, yours old stomping grounds for years.
They got it going together.
And you and I did a little bit of UNLV over the years. That was fun.
Happy for the Rebs.
I'm happy for them too.
And they got a good team. They're playing Fresno State this week. That'll be a good test for them. Hey, let's take a moment and talk about Avery Johnson. He's the quarterback for Kansas State. Before the game Saturday, he announced that for the rest of the season, whenever he scores a touchdown, he has asked people to donate money. He's raising money for his former high school principal and his cancer treatments. Valid cause and all that. Well, they go out and play the game. He doesn't score 1 touchdown because BYU's defense was so good. But after the game, BYU fans went to the site, and DJ is going to pull it up here in just a second, Champ Raise, which is overseeing the fundraiser. And then there was a newspaper article today, and the Deseret News is covering this because this is hopping all over social media. At least 500 BYU fans went to this site after the game and donated nearly $18,000, according to the newspaper. That was after the game. Then there was Sunday, and here we are late on Monday, and at the last check, I think there was just under $35,000 raised. He's going for 40 as the goal for the whole season. Yeah. And BYU fans are going to top that off before we get out on Monday.
Let's blow it out for sure.
It's TDs to help Dr. Botts beat cancer at champraise.com. And he was quoted in the newspaper back in Manhattan, Kansas today. And he was asked, hey, what about all those BYU fans that helped you raise money after the game on Saturday night? And his quote today was, it just goes to show that there are a lot of great people in this world, and it's bigger than football. And then this is what he said about the BYU crowd. All right, DJ, thank you. BYU's fan experience has gotten so much play from the visiting Kansas State fans. I mean, everyone comes and they're wowed and they leave and they say nice things. This has been like way over the top.
Yeah.
It's almost like they had a religious experience here while they were watching their team get knocked around down on the field. And so here's what Avery Johnson said when he was asked today about the crowd. And he said several things, but I just pulled this quote. This is a tribute, by the way, to all BYU fans everywhere, except for the ones that we always apologize for.
Right. There's a very few, right?
Here's this quote. That was probably one of the weirdest environments I've ever been a part of. It was like their fans were encouraging almost. Most of the time, fans try to heckle you and say bad things about you before the game, but all their fans were encouraging. It was just a different environment to be in. This is the quarterback for Kansas State. And you know what? It's just awesome. And we had a big piece on Bill Snyder, the legendary Kansas State football coach, on game day that our guys did an awesome job. That got a lot of great things. When you play BYU, you get more than just the 4 quarters.
Right. You
get the experience, and you even get free ice cream if you come here in person.
That's right.
But you know what? When you come to the Marriott Center, a lot of times you get beat. And Kansas State got thumped on Saturday night.
Yeah. Come to Lavelle Edwards or the Marriott Center are crazy loud. Anybody that comes in will go, wow, that's as loud as I've ever heard. And I'm interested to see what Hans has to say when he comes on with us. I mean, I played at Georgia in front of 90,000. I played in a sold-out Qualcomm in a national championship game. Those places were not as loud as that field was the other night. And it is something special.
There was so much to be loud about.
Yeah, it was really fun. There's so many big plays and so many, like that 3 or 4 minute period was crazy. I've never seen anything like it, and the fans went out of their minds. But you know what? They do it with great sportsmanship, which is really cool. That's how we want it to be.
And they're not drunk.
You cheer your team on.
It's just genuine fanness.
Just not drunk people being crazy and fun. And the elements that David Alamodova, who we've had on the show that does all the in-stadium stuff, are off the charts fantastic. If you haven't been to a game in Lavelle Edwards Stadium, you have to go.
I texted
it's
Dave.
A show.
I texted him on Sunday, and he's been on the show a couple of times, and I said, you know what? Your crew does such a good job in the game presentation. Before the teams even come out on the field, they've got this festive atmosphere and fireworks and fire and just everything. And The Rock is outstanding. We had the members of The Rock here on the show, remember, a month or so ago before the season started. They had their group fully engaged. Their group was like 15,000 strong.
Yeah,
and it was just spectacular.
For our game day show, The Rock was in there behind us for the show 2 hours before kickoff, and they extended all the way across the street and up onto the hill by the Cougar in the stadium. It was you could just tell that something special was going to happen because the atmosphere felt electric from 2 hours before the game, and it was really fun.
Richfield, Utah is in. Hey, by the way, hop on the stream and let us know what you thought of the game. We're going to talk about it for the next few minutes, but we'll get your feelings as well. 38-9. K-State was ranked 13th in the country. They were favored by a touchdown. BYU scored 31 points during a flurry of 4 straight possessions at the end of the first half and the start of the second half were fueled by turnovers and then, assisted by big plays. Yeah. Plays we hadn't seen for a long time.
A couple of plays that you don't see that often. No. Let's start with that defensive touchdown by Tommy Prassis, who it was Jack Kelly, who played phenomenal in that game, by the way, and as well as Taggart. The linebackers have been lights out. That group of 3 linebackers for BYU has played as well as any linebacking group in the country through 4 games. They're outstanding. And they were smacking people around. And Jack Kelly comes up. He hits the running back. The ball flies out. Tommy Prassis picks it up and takes it in for 6. And the crowd starts to go nuts.
It was sensational. Then there were a couple other things, but let's just go to the Parker Kingston.
Yeah, let's go right to that.
So he has this 90-yard punt return. I wrote about it today in the Deseret News. I have 2 articles at Deseret.com. One was on time flies when you're having fun, this flurry of points. And then the other one was did BYU become they go from a pretender to a contender in one night? And the answer is yes. And we'll talk about that tonight. We'll get Hans' opinion as well, because now they're in it.
Yeah.
You have to beat a contender. And then when you beat them so badly, you become a contender.
Yeah, and everybody's like, this is one of the top teams. And watching that Kansas State team, there's no lack of talent. If you watched that game critically, their running backs have phenomenal quickness. DJ Giddens is big time. He is one of the best backs in the league. Avery Johnson made a couple of errors, but his athleticism, his ability to run and get big plays in the run game, and his arm strength and all that is unquestionable. He's just a sophomore. He's going to be scary the next couple of years. This team is big and physical on defense. BYU just made so many big plays that they end up running away with this thing. And the home field had a lot to do with it, of course.
Yeah.
I have never heard, the loudest I've ever heard that stadium was on the play by Parker Kingston. When he muffs the punt, and we were all standing right next to each other in our position there in our set, and we're all like, oh no, like and he runs backward from the 15-yard line, and there's 2 Kansas State defenders right on his heels, and we're thinking, BYU's going to give them the ball on the 5-yard line. Instead, he picks it up, they knock each other down, he runs back along the end zone line all the way across the field and then proceeds to run. He must have run 150 yards on that play.
Yeah, it was nuts.
All the way into the end zone.
We're going to show it on After Further Review, and we're going to put a tracker on just how many yards
we'll tell you exactly how far he ran and how fast his top speed was. So.
Jonathan on the stream said, I'm shocked. I did not expect what happened. I thought it would be a slugfest. Josh, LES was absolute magic on Saturday. There have been some great home games over the years, and this one belongs in the pantheon of all-timers. I agree with that. LJP, top 5 of crazy, wild, most exciting games I've ever seen, and I was at the Miracle Bowl watching BYU for over 50 years. Go Cougs.
That's how we all felt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's usually keep it coming in. Russ says, I was at the game. I love the way the crowd was loud for every snap Kansas State took in the first half. We never let up. And you know what? There's a pattern that's happening here. Remember we talked about the crowd having so much to do with that Arizona State win a couple years ago with Tyler Allgeier's punch-out play and all that, right? But 5 or 6 false starts. Kansas State had 5 false starts completely because of the crowd. So, and then David Woodruff said, I'm wondering if Blaine can explain on the Kingston return what the kicker was doing when he drove into the blocker instead of the runner during that return.
Listen, we're talking about kickers, so you never quite know what they're thinking.
Hey, David, just think of it this way. A kicker never expects that they're ever going to have to be involved at that point, right? It's not his job. So he just lost his mind and blocked a guy for BYU, right?
Kingston is the Big 12 a special teams player of the week. So Parker got a big one. He was almost the he went from goat
to
outhouse
to champion
to the prince of the city. Jake Retzlaff was 15 of 21, 149 yards and 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. He started 1 for 5. So you do the math. Then he went 14 for 16.
Yeah, down
the rest of the game.
And here's the thing, and you remember Gifford Nielsen said this on the show last week. He said Jake needs to recognize that with the defense playing the way that they're playing right now, that he needs to manage the game right now as a first-year starter, right? And that next year when he's a senior, you may say, hey, you just got to go out and make some game-winning plays. Right now, his job is to manage this team, to take care of the ball, to not turn it over. He was phenomenal in that regard in this game. To go 14 to 16 down the stretch, he had a couple of errant throws early. I think he was jacked up. I think all of us were a little hyped up to start that game.
He threw a pass that had to have been like 90 miles an hour. Yeah. And the problem is the receiver was like 15 feet away.
Yeah, and the other thing we talked about, and Gifford really went in detail on this. If you haven't seen that interview, go back to go to wiseguys.com and go pick the Gifford Nielsen part out and watch how he describes how important footwork is. And early in that game, Jake had a few little problems with his footwork. I think it was because he was so excited he didn't set his feet. In the 14 for 16 run to end that game, his feet were perfection. And he's learning every game. He's getting better every game. But to not turn that over and for the defense to force 3 turnovers was a difference in that ball game. That's game-changing. And when your defense is as good as BYU's is, that's how you go out and win games. And everybody's like, oh, my goodness, BYU only had 241 yards of offense and Kansas State had 363. That's fine because your defense is forcing turnovers and you're scoring and getting short fields.
Yeah.
When you're +3 in turnover margin, you don't even care about total yards. You're not going to have as many total yards, but you're going to win games by big margins, and that's a great formula. I love how efficient the offense was. We've been looking for them to get to that combined when we go third down conversion percentage combined with fourth down conversion percentage. We want them at 40% or better. They hit 40% this game, which is what we've been looking for. And the other thing, Kansas State had 3 turnovers. They also failed to convert on fourth down 3 times.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of 6 turnovers. So, if you're saying, how in the world does BYU win 38-9 when they only had 241 yards of total offense? In essence, they were +6 on turnover margin.
That's how you do that.
They didn't turn it over. They were 1 for 1 on fourth down. Kansas State was 0 for 3 on fourth down, turned it over 3 times. You're going to win in a big way, and that might be just the formula for BYU this year because they're so good defensively, and it was fun to watch.
It was. Earlier today, Kalani Sitake held his annual news conference to kick off the week. Thoughts on Kansas State and some early thoughts on getting ready for Baylor as they're just now finishing practice for the day. Let's listen for a couple of minutes. Keep your comments and your thoughts and opinions about that game coming on the live stream as we listen to Coach Sitake. DJ?
Excited about week 5 and looking forward to this game. What a great weekend it was last weekend. It was good to be home after being on the road for a couple weeks. And so the fans were amazing. The atmosphere, the environment, everything. A lot of work goes into putting that together, and it was quite a show. From all the people that do the game day prep and the entertainers that are there throughout the game, and just had a really good crowd. The Rock was awesome, and the fans were unbelievable. So it was a cool environment. Our players responded really nicely to it, and after watching the film, really happy with the way the guys played. Obviously, a lot of places that we can improve on. I do feel like we played with great energy and effort, and that was probably our best of the year so far. Looking forward to improving on it and playing our best this weekend. And have a lot of respect for Kansas State and their program, and obviously Chris Kleiman's a good friend of mine, so I know that they'll get their guys going, and a really talented team. Things went well for us, and we were able to capitalize on it, and but there's still room for improvement, and we're looking forward to getting better. But really happy with the way the guys are leading this team, and the way they're all playing, and the way that they're sticking together. So. Looking forward to this week, going to Baylor and playing that game. We've been there before. It's a tough environment to play. I mean, everything on the road is hard nowadays, especially in this conference. And so looking forward to the matchup. They're coming off a heartbreaking loss. That they had the game under control, so losing an overtime game, I know that they're in a tough spot right now, but knowing everything about Dave Aranda and what he does in his business, he'll have those guys rolling, and he'll have them giving us their best shot. My job is to make sure that we bring our best shot too, and then we see how it goes. So looking forward to the game, looking forward to being out there. It's a cool environment. I really like that stadium a lot, and so our players looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to the game. We learned from last week, but we're got to stay humble and stay hungry, and that's what our approach is. We've seen. I know a lot of guys on this coaching staff, and they'll have this team ready. And so I recognize a lot of the players on that team too, and they'll be ready to roll. We just need to make sure that we're ready to go too. And looking in the landscape of college football, teams have big wins, and then it has this overlasting effect even into the next week, and we got to make sure that doesn't happen. So looking forward to the good prep today, and moving on from last week's result. Even though we're happy about it, we got to move on and focus on the next one. We've talked about, we only get 12 guaranteed opportunities, so we have the 5th one coming up, and we got to take advantage of it and take advantage of the time that we have to be on that field. So
that's Kalani Sitake from this afternoon's news conference. My favorite quote on that was, "It was quite a show."
Yeah,
it was quite a show, and we're going to see hopefully another kind of entertaining show on Saturday. It'll be different because it's on the road. It's a different time of day against a different kind of an opponent. We'll talk about Baylor coming up here in just a bit. But let's before we bring Hans in, what did we like on Saturday from this game? And we appreciate all the comments coming in. We'll try to get as many of your opinions and share them with everybody as well.
And Robert Devine, he plays right into this first thing we're going to talk about. We're saying not only did the defense force 3 turnovers, but they created 21 points off of those turnovers. That's huge. And then Robert's question is, doesn't a big defensive stop on fourth down that results in a turnover on downs end as a fumble or pick? They don't count it as that, but we just talked about that, Robert. And we're saying it's the equivalent of 6 forced turnovers in that, and which is amazing. So 3 + 3 = 6. BYU only went for it on fourth once, and they were 1 for 1. And they were also, completely clean. And let's add to that they didn't have any penalties until the until the fourth quarter. And the first penalty they had, they took on purpose to move the punter back 5 more yards. And then they had an unsportsmanlike that was just a little bit of this was as clean a game as you'll ever see in terms of penalties and lack of turnovers for BYU. And we loved that. We absolutely loved that. We loved that there were no touchdowns allowed again by this defense. That's 2 Power 4 opponents this year, SMU and Kansas State, who are known for offensive prowess, especially SMU. To not give up a touchdown to those 2 teams is actually remarkable. So we love that. We also love Sione Moa. Mm-hmm. Like we're talking about at the beginning of the season, this is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, those guys kind of interchangeable at running back. Do you think BYU found their running back? I mean,
it feels like it. It feels like it. He runs hard. He runs fearless. Maybe he's not quite sure what he should be afraid of. He's a young guy.
I love that he's just not afraid of anything, and he's so low to the ground. He's like 5'10", 215 to 220.
Yeah, you just have to have someone who will get you. If it's 3rd and 2 or 4th and 1, he got the carry on 4th and 1. Get the 1.
Yeah, and
get him 2. You just got to keep moving the pile.
I love him in short yardage. I also love on his touchdown run. It was evident that by that point in the game, this Kansas State defense didn't want to hit him anymore. He was running over dudes. He ran through 5 tackles on that touchdown. He's so low to the ground with such great leg drive. And I love that he averaged 5.1 yards a carry on 15 carries for 79 yards. How about that?
That's
or for
fantastic.
76 yards. Yeah,
hey,
it was great.
Lori's in the live stream from Orem, Utah, not far from here. Tom is with us from the Bay Area. Tom, good to have you here. What we didn't like that slow start. Didn't score until the field goal with 2:10 left in the first half.
Yeah. The one thing that's a little different than, like last year when they'd have a slow start, they'd get down. And an improvement from the beginning of the year till now is, we were talking about this as you and I were watching them, and Dave Nixon and Brian Logue, we were all right there, Austin Colley. And we're going, hey, you know what? At least they're getting some first downs. So they weren't going 3 and out and punting the football and giving the other team a short field. They'd get a couple of first downs. They'd stall out. They'd punt the ball on 3rd down, and then Kansas State would have the whole field to drive, and then the defense would get the ball back, and then they would do it again. And so this defense is good enough.
Has been saving
that if you have a slow start on offense, as long as you're moving the ball and not giving a bunch of short fields, this defense is going to defend for you. And they're going to keep the other team from scoring. So they're getting away with it right now. Yeah. What I like is they started out slow, and they didn't convert multiple 3rd downs to start the game, and then they went on a string of them to end the game.
Finished 3 of 9 on 3rd downs. That's been a 3rd down's been an issue for the first 4 games. And you're right, the defense has kept them in it. The defense, they're you know what they're going to do? They're eventually going to give up a touchdown. They're playing some really good teams, and so the offense has got to meet them halfway.
And when you're playing a team like Kansas State's known for possessing the ball. They want to run the football, which they tried to do against BYU. So you don't have that many possessions. We got to the middle of the second quarter, and we're like, has BYU really only had the ball twice?
Yeah.
And they'd only had it twice.
We also don't love the fact that there were just 3 targets for Chase Roberts. And he caught 2 of them for 47 yards and a touchdown. However they do it, they got to get him the ball.
They got to figure out how to get him isolated in coverage and get him mismatches and get him the ball. Yep. He's a playmaker, and your game planning needs to start with who's our playmakers and how many touches do we want them to get. And I know A-Rod does that. They used to say, hey, with Tyler Algier, we need him to have 25 touches in the game. With Jamal Williams, he needs 20 touches. I know that when you have players like Chase, you need to prescribe in your mind before you even start putting your game plan together, how many touches do we need to get him, and how are we going to get those for him? How are we going to get him isolated and get him the football? You need to think about other guys too. I think Darius Laster needs more touches. I'd like to see
Yeah.
Reiner Swanson getting more touches. So
I'd like to see Reiner Swanson get a lot more touches.
yeah, every time he touches the ball,
Something happens.
He's scary
Yeah.
to try to tackle, and so you got to figure out how to get playmakers the ball in space and let them go make
Hey,
plays.
Riker says, hey, having no passing touchdowns allowed so far this year may be one of the most impressive stats for me so far. Absolutely. There's
Yeah.
just one other team in FBS that hasn't given up a touchdown pass, and that's Minnesota. Everyone else has. That's impressive. We do love that.
And then Russ says that this team has played so penalty-free, they appear to be so assignment sound in most plays. Russ, when we look at last year versus this year, and remember, we talked about this right at the beginning of the show. 7 transfers on offense, first-year transfers started last year. Those guys, the ones that are back, are all back in their second year. Everybody was in a new defense last year. They have made a gigantic step in their assignments and being where they're supposed to be and cutting down on penalties. This team's night and day more disciplined than last year.
John from Jackson Hole, Wyoming is on the live stream. Let's finish up with, before we bring Hans in with us, your 3 keys to beating Kansas State. You ready to revisit them?
Yeah, let's revisit them.
Number 1 was you wanted to see a quick passing game established early.
Right.
I'm not sure we saw that.
No, but because that is kind of how they move the ball. Is they hit a couple of quick ones. They got the run game going.
Yeah. Now, if we move that to middle to late, that was
we're gonna give them a neutral on that one. I'm not giving them a check.
Number
on that
2,
one.
account for Kansas State quarterback Avery Johnson. He rushed 11 times for 74 yards. He threw for 130. They didn't score a touchdown, so I'm going to give you a check on that.
Yeah, I'm giving, and here's why. People don't understand how unbelievably quick and elusive that guy is. The whole idea was DJ Giddens and Avery Johnson are going to get some big plays. They just are. They can't be to the house.
Yeah.
Like their biggest play can only be 25 to 30 yards, and then the defense can stiffen up because if we don't let them go to the house, they're never going to drive on us all the way down the field. I'm giving a big-time check because even though Avery Johnson got away a little bit, that's okay. He never got away to the house.
And number 3, win the turnover battle. It was 3-0. A big check right there.
Plus 4 stops on fourth down, or 3 stops on fourth down. I'm saying they were 6-0.
Okay.
On that.
Let's say
and
that.
We're going to give them 2 checks, which is going to make up for the neutral on established quick passing.
2 checks are always better than
one. Yeah, we're going to give them 2 checks.
Hey, do you want 1 check or do you want 2? I'd
Give
like
them
2. Our first guest tonight played defensive tackle at BYU between 1996 and 2000. He played for the Colts in 2001. As I read this, Weston from Nebraska jumps on the live stream. He's a radio analyst for BYU broadcasts on BYU Radio. Our pleasure to welcome back our friend Hans Olsen to the show. Hans, thank you for being here. We've been waiting this for a long time, and it comes on the heels of one of the biggest moments any of us have witnessed at LaVell Edwards Stadium. I know you tweeted about that earlier today, that this was one of the best.
One of the best, one of the most enjoyable calls of my broadcasting career. I've been calling bowl games now for 6 years on the national networks, and this is my 2nd year now in the booth with BYU, and it's the most fun I've had calling a game. And a lot of it just had to do with the explosive plays. It was incredible to see multiple defensive efforts for turnovers and special team efforts for touchdowns, and then big efforts offensively, and then huge effort defensively to get the stop on 4th down. That effort by Isaiah Glasker to defeat the block and swipe the leg out from under Avery Johnson was, it went hardly almost unnoticed. And it needs to be something that needs to be highlighted because, getting that turnover on that 4th down and stopping Kansas State's effort to even get back within 2 possessions, it just all came together, and it was an incredible game, and it was a blast to call.
We talked about a couple of things, Hans, with this game. First of all, to take on your comment about Glasker and linebacker, earlier in the show we were talking about these 3 linebackers. I mean, BYU's had times when they've had Fred Warner out there, who's as good as anybody that's ever played, or Kyle Van Noy. These 3 together, I feel like they're playing as good as any 3 linebackers together in the country right now. What's your thoughts on this linebacking crew and how they've come together?
I've got a lot of thoughts. How much time do we got?
Yeah,
we got all night.
As long as you want, brother. That's the beauty of this show.
This is something we got to do quick. It really is amazing. A couple things with these 3 linebackers. Number one, not only do you have these three new linebackers? You lost three juggernaut linebackers in Vaughn Pachon, Max Tooley, and Ben Bywater to injury. You know, when you lost that crew, it really lent into feeling like this was going to be a letdown of a season because those three meant so much to this defense. And it was a heartbreaker to see that Ben Bywater would not be out there this year. So that was issue number one. Then you go to the Jack Kelly effect. Jack Kelly really is the only transfer that's on the defensive side, really on this team, that is this year's transfer that is making that big a difference. Now there's other guys, but this is the one that's come in, and he has been the bright spot so far for the defense. In my opinion, if you had to give a team MVP through the first 4 games, I'd give it to Jack Kelly. His rush ability, his coverage, his big playmaking. He knocked that ball loose that went on for a scoop and score. He got the pressure to force the ball out of the hand that ended up in a Tyler Batty interception. He's now got 3 or 4, he might be 4 sacks, multiple pressures. He, to me, is the defensive MVP, and he comes off the transfer. Well, this is a Jay Hill genius. So people are asking, well, why is the defense playing so well? Why are these 3 playing so well? Well, outside of Jack Kelly, these guys have been together. The offense has been together. You didn't have this huge 27 transfer portal infusion of guys that are trying to learn new defense and learn new offense. The defense is sound. Guys know it, and guys are playing well in it. Okay, so there's a couple of thoughts. Now, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. You bring in Gary Anderson and Chad Cowell to help with this defense. And this is not a knock. In fact, it's more of a compliment to Sione Pua, Kelly Popinga, Justin Enna, and Jay Hill. It's more of a compliment, in my opinion, because those are 2 intimidating characters. And when I talk about Gary Anderson, I'm talking about what my defensive idol. Gary Anderson is my defensive idol. Gary Anderson is one of my just overall coaching idols. I would have loved to play for him, and any team I've really watched, he's coached it with character, and he takes such great pride in character development and great connectivity with his players. So you bring in Gary Anderson and you bring in Chad Kawaha, and you're able to have them imprint some of their philosophies on already brilliant coaches. And I've known Justin Enna long enough. Justin is an amazing coach, and he would be amazing all by himself. But I know Justin Enna well enough that Justin's the type of guy that will sit down at a table with no ego. Zero. None. He'll sit at a table with zero ego, with a big smile on his face and say, how do we get better? What do we do? And if Gary says, this is one way, this is one angle. If Chad says, this is one angle, Justin's the kind of guy that would be like, okay, let's try it. And I guarantee you that those defensive minds have come together and built something really beautiful with these 3 linebackers, as well as the 2 interior guys that aren't getting the love they deserve. Blake Mangelson and John Nelson have played phenomenal first quarter season games.
Hans, I talked to Kalani the other night. I think everybody knows Kalani just lives down the street from me, so he and I catch up on the street a bunch. He just stopped by the other night when we were walking around the block, and we got talking about Blake Mangelson. And this, I think this is the ultimate compliment. And I want you to comment on what kind of compliment this is. He goes, yeah, Blake Mangelson. He reminds me so much of Brett Kiesel. I can't even tell you. He is Brett Kiesel. What kind of a compliment is that, Hans?
Well, that's a great compliment. It's a phenomenal compliment. And, Kiesel was a great college player, but Kiesel really found his bearings in the NFL. You could say he reminds you of the BYU Kiesel, or
he's saying he reminds me of Brett Kiesel with the Steelers.
Yeah, okay,
that's what he's talking about.
That's a different level.
Yeah,
because that's a long, extended guy, and what that is that's a press off guy. So he's not only does he have the long arms, but he's got the strength in him to really extend a defender or the offensive lineman off him to make a play, and that's what Blake does. Blake is able to crouch. He's got great hand placement, huge shoulder strength. He's explosive. He's just been fun to watch.
And his motor never, ever, ever stops.
It never stops. So my list of defenders, I would go Jack Kelly number 1. I would go. This is tough. I'd go Jack Kelly number 1. I'd go Jacob Robinson number 2. I'd go Tyler Batty number 3. I'd go Blake Mangelson number 4. Those 4 guys, and then I'd go John Nelson number 5.
Yeah.
Those 5 guys have been unstoppable, and it's been a blast to watch them.
Yeah, Marty on the chat says, hey, Hans, how about the DBs? 0 passing touchdowns allowed. Lockdown corners open up the defensive playbook, don't they? And that's the question or the comment that he's making at you. What do you think?
Yeah, chicken and an egg.
Yeah.
What came first here? Is it the lockdown that's allowing the pressure, or is it the pressure that's helping the DBs and preventing some of these touchdowns through the air? Obviously, it's a combination of both, but what you didn't have last year that you feel like is better this year is defensive pressure. And that's why I continue to bring up these guys. It's what I called for. I didn't come into this season saying we need better DB play.
Right.
It was fantastic DB play last year. What I came in saying was you better figure out how to rush the passer if you want to take the next step. And they've done that with Jack Kelly largely, and then a group of other guys.
Former Cougar and current BYU football analyst Hans Olsen's on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News. Okay, 4-0 and in the top 25. Oklahoma State, Arizona, Kansas, they've all looked vulnerable. They're all coming to Provo. A couple of weeks ago, those might have been, well, which of those 3 can they get 1? Well, now things have changed a little bit, so let's overreact because fans and broadcasters, they can do that. The football team, they got to stay focused.
They got to go one day at a time.
Does beating Kansas State the way they beat Kansas State change everything?
Yeah, it does. And it does. It changes everything. And I'm gonna tell you why, because you've got a staple. And when you've got a defensive staple that can play really good pass sets, when you've got a defensive staple that makes really good decisions and can have clear-cut rules and attack those rules. Kansas State went out and they still got some rushing yards. My first key to the game was keeping Kansas State at 165 yards. And they weren't able to do that. Kansas State they nearly went to their average, which was 244 yards. I think they ended up with 220 or whatever it was. I can't remember, but it was close to their average. But what they did do is they forced Avery Johnson into runs he didn't want to do. They forced him to get back into the pocket, and they did a much better job of contain and control. So what that tells me is you've got a defense that's disciplined, and you've got a defense that is versatile. And when you've got that, then you have stability. You know, you can have an offense that throws picks and is erratic and turnovers and fumbles and not enough runs and too many runs. And you can have an offense that's all over the place. When you got a defense that is sound and stable, you can win 8 games. You can win 9 games. Kyle Whittingham's been doing it at Utah for the better part of 20 years.
Yeah, even when his offense is mediocre, Kyle is able to go out and get that because the defense. Hey, I had a conversation with Gavin Hans after the game, and he commented about how much he and Jay love the back end of this defense because their mindset is if we miss an assignment somehow up front and somebody gets out in open space, there is no way in the world they're going to go to the house and score a touchdown. We will erase the big mistakes, and they may get a 25-yard run, but they're not going 60 to the house. And we're so confident as a defense that if they get a 25-yard run, they're not going to do that again in that drive, and we'll hold them to at worst a field goal, and hopefully we'll keep them out of the end zone. What do you think about that mentality from that back end? And guys like Tanner Wall back there, even Jacob Robinson, who's not a very big guy, DeMooney has really come on. I watched that this last week. Whenever Avery Johnson would get on the outside, I've watched him go 70 yards for 6 on plays like that, and they run him out of bounds at 20. Or when DJ Giddens gets out in the open and he looks like he's going to go 60, it's a 20-yard gain, and they bring him down, and then the defense resets and they stop him. How important is that, being able to manage points, and is that as important as managing yards?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. And, you've got a bunch of great tacklers. I watched, I think it was Crew Wakely. There was a third down run by Kansas State that he had all the momentum. And I think it was Jacob Robinson that wrapped up his legs about a yard short. And as he was leaning to get the first, True Wakely came and put a helmet down on him and turned him sideways and left him half yard short of the first, and put Kansas State into a really difficult position. That hit and that moment was just one instant of what we continually see now from the safeties, and you mentioned a couple of the safeties that we're seeing make a difference. I'll mention Tommy Parasis, another guy in the defensive backfield, Thin, that's just done incredible things. And, it's like you lose Evan Johnson in this game, and my heart kind of sunk because I'm thinking, well, do you have the depth with Mark Collins, who he wasn't out there the beginning part of the game. He came in a little bit later, and Maury Bamba, who was just coming off injury situation. And do you have the depth? And Evan goes off the field, Maury comes on the field, and nothing changed. And it's like, how disciplined do these defensive coaches have this team playing right now? And support on the edge and run support, like you're talking about, it has been an incredible thing. And I will tell you, I think that outside of BYU and Utah, I think the best team right now in the Big 12 is Central Florida. I think it's UCF, and both BYU and Utah have to go to Orlando to take on this UCF team.
Yeah.
And that is going to be a really tough task. I think that'll be the biggest test. And the other thing that I think is going to be a big test, because I know that this defense is a staple, and I can hang my hat on them. The other thing that's going to be a test is a team that is more disciplined in forcing BYU into long offensive drives. Their average starting field position against Kansas State was the 44.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah, you like that, right? But that's not always going to happen, right?
Yeah, and when you can, what I would do is try to force them into long fields and make Jake Retzlaff make as many bad decisions as I can. But the problem is, Blaine, you're seeing it. Dave, you're seeing it. He's starting to thin out those mistakes.
Yeah, he's getting better every week. Yep.
He's getting better every week.
3 turnovers at SMU, and then he came back with just the one early against Wyoming. No turnovers on Saturday against Kansas State.
That sounds like Dave's telling us there's a trend there.
Yeah, what's the evolution? What's getting better with him?
Let me tell you, so against Wyoming, he put another 3 balls out there, at least 3, because I think it was a total of 5 that could have been picks. That absolutely could have been picks. So I know that he ended up, what was it, with 2? Was that
he just had one in Wyoming. Just one.
One pick in Wyoming? Okay, so the week before, he did put the ball in jeopardy against Wyoming on a couple of other occasions, and then the week before, some other occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Against Kansas State, I did not see a pass that put the ball in jeopardy. Blaine, can you correct me on that?
No, he did not. He didn't throw. He didn't force a ball in anywhere that he shouldn't have forced one in.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. So we saw Kalani come out with a statement saying it's not his ball. We saw Kalani come out with a statement saying it's everybody's ball, and you cannot be selfish with it. You have to protect it. And I think that Jake is taking that to heart. And then here's the other thing. Jay Hill, Kalani, Justin Inna, Tioni Pua, Gary Anderson, Chad Kawaha, they're all under that Kyle Whittingham defensive philosophy. And the one thing Kyle will not put up with is turnovers, ever, because he knows the defense can win games. I guarantee that philosophy is now leaking into this BYU room, saying, well, look, we'll do what we got to do offensively, but we're not going to give short fields. We're not going to give extra possession. That is not going to happen because now Jake Retzlaff has to look at his defense and say, we can win purely based off of our defense. We can win. All I have to do is be smart. And we started to see that evolution.
Yeah, we'll let him make plays next year when he's a senior and has another 12 games under his belt, right? Or toward the end of the year.
Well, he can make some.
Yeah, but people forget that Steve Sarkisian, Dave and I remind him that I didn't feel like the light bulb went on with Sark until the end of his junior season as a transfer, JC transfer. Like he was lights out against Fresno State, a game that I called. But I watched him gradually develop, and then as a senior in '96, he was just out balling and making plays all day long. He just had such a command of the offense. That's what I would expect the progression to be for Jake. Now, the beauty that Jake has is in '95, Steve didn't have a defense that was like this defense that's just shutting people down. And they didn't, the potential to win games, and of course they weren't playing a schedule like this year, but the potential to win games really is about taking care of the football. And you know what? I wanted to ask you a little bit about this emergence of a young running back. Let's talk about the offense a little bit, Hans. How about Sione Moa? 15 rushes, 76 yards and a touchdown. What impressed you about him this last week?
It was like one of those little wind-up engines that, you crank and then it makes some noises and puffs of smoke come out, and it's kind of a slow start. And then once it starts and once it sets in, it is a powerful piston-moving machine. And that was Sione. It was like he got in there, he had a couple carries where he was kind of filling his work a bit and filling the ground and filling the defense, and then all of a sudden he starts to get this confidence, and he starts blowing his shoulder and hitting the hip. You remember that? It was I think it was a weak side blast, and it was first quarter. And you remember, handoff probably about 5 yard depth, and he just came straight downhill for about a 6 yard gain.
Yes,
and lowered his head. I'm like, ooh, I like that. 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 More of that, and then you saw more of that coming down in the third and fourth quarter. So what I saw was a kid that is starting to find his confidence. And I remember a young Harvey Unga when he finally started to find his confidence. Now, I don't know if Sione Moa's got the outside ability that Harvey Unga's got. We're yet to really see that, but watching him progress as quickly as he has just kind of reminds me of that.
We were talking, who he reminded me of, Hans, and I'd be perfectly fine if he turned into this guy. He reminded me of Manasseh Tonga. And I'll take Manasseh all day long. Like Harvey's like elite level, NFL level type guy that could catch the ball and run outside and run inside, and he was longer than Sione. But I'll go win a bunch of games with a Manasseh Tonga at running back.
Yeah.
Because he can block and he can pick up in pass protection and he can go get you yards, and he might not go 85 yards for a touchdown, but he'll get you big chunks, and I love him on 3rd and 1. So I'd be completely fine if Sione turned into Manasseh Tonga. How about you?
That would be a dream come true with this offense. A dream come true to give you some type of staple, some type of support. Now, ideally, it would be nice if he became Harvey Unga and Enoch Nawahine became Manasseh Tonga.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, and then you know what I want? I want somebody to become Curtis Brown too,
and an Algier, throw an Algier in there.
Yeah, you only get a Tyler Algier and a Jamal Williams. Like I would say, you only get a Jamal Williams and a Tyler Algier once every 20 years. But how in the world did we get those two guys back to back?
Moa impressed me. He got me thinking about Algier on that touchdown run when he ran through 4, 5, 6 guys, because Tyler was low to the ground and hard to bring down. In fact, he ran great against the Chiefs last night. He should have just gotten the ball about 10 more times.
They should have given him 10 more touches.
But couldn't this Moa be the missing link to what even Jake's missing, to just relax him? And even when Aaron's going to run that 2nd and 10 that we all know he's going to do, you can get 4 yards. Then it's 3rd and 6 instead of 3rd and 10.
Yeah, it would be really nice for him to be that stable. And I'm still expecting LJ Martin back probably around that Arizona game. So you go Baylor, you got a bye week. You're going to get that ankle healed up, and he should be back for Arizona. So we can't forget that LJ Martin should still be that guy through the back end of the season. I do think that the Miles Davis experiment is kind of done, and I wonder a little bit about Hinckley Rapati, the amount of damage that was done and how long to expect him to be out. But now, injuries have mounted so much that I just don't really expect a lot from Hinckley. So my guess is to finish the season, it's going to be L.J. Martin back in Arizona. It'll be Sione Moa with the other bulk of the carries, and then you'll get a rotational effort from Inik Nawahine. And that's not to say that Honga was not solid when he came in. It's just you can still preserve his red shirt at this point.
Yeah, and Honga, like what people don't know about him is when I watched him, in practice, he has really good hands, and he's really good in the screen game. So I think when they finally do start to play him, if they can redshirt him, that'd be great. He only plays in 4 games. But I think people are going to really like him as well. This is a good running back room, and people don't know that much. They didn't know about Moa. They don't know about Honga. They don't really know about Enoch. It's not bad. You get LJ back, you're in pretty good shape at that point.
Mm-hmm. It's great, and Harvey Honga's doing a great job with them. Pass protection's been pretty darn solid for these young guys, and you're not seeing a lot of big mistakes from this group. So a lot of credit goes to Harvey Honga.
Couple more questions before Hans reveals his top 5 NFL players in BYU program history, which we're all standing by for. Last time BYU went to Baylor, Hans, Gary Bohannon was the Bears quarterback, and he beat BYU, and then he won the Big 12 championship. Now they're going back, and Bohannon's on the BYU side, but it's Waco. It's a different Baylor team. It's a much different BYU team. That 20-21 team was good, but they went down there and got handled by the Bears. What are the keys for victory on Saturday?
I'm wondering where Baylor is mentally after losing in overtime to Colorado.
Yeah.
Guys, they had the storm. The field was stormed on them, and the national media and national attention of it was crazy. And they had the lead and gave up a Hail Mary to allow Colorado to push that thing to overtime, and then gave up the overtime. I don't know where their minds are right now, but I know where that coaching staff mind is, and that is this is our final year unless we can get something going.
Yeah.
And they brought in a transfer quarterback in Sawyer Robertson that they've got a lot of faith in that has not shown what they hoped he would show. They've got a running back that they had faith in Richardson that I don't think that they're getting the max production out of him. I know that Dave Aranda is a defensive mind, and he's a guy that understands great defense, and his defense is not giving him what he needs right now. Shedeur Sanders threw for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, they're struggling to defend. They're really aggressive, but they're struggling to stop the throw.
Yeah,
they're struggling to stop the pass. It's killing them. And so, what do I expect? I expect BYU to go in there and get a win and shake off this 10 a.m. kick stigma that hangs on them. I saw Greg Rebel, my partner in the booth, sent out a tweet and said that they'd lost their last 10 a.m. kicks in a row.
Well, is there 10 a.m. kick? I was trying to remember when they've ever had a 10 a.m. kick. Well, 10 a.m.
Noon Eastern.
Yeah, noon
I
Eastern.
think Boston College one year was at noon.
But I said, have they ever actually kicked off in the morning at the site that they're playing at? This is an 11 o'clock kick in Texas. I don't know that they've ever played a morning game in site. Have they?
I don't know the exact time. I think it was before noon was the stat that Greg threw out, if I remember right. But this is going to be one of the earlier kicks. But they've struggled with these early kicks, and any morning kicks that they've had has been a struggle for them. But it's like, shake that off, man. Like,
right.
Yeah. And
what Baylor is.
These half these guys are dads. You're telling me they don't get up early in the morning with the kids? Come on, you got to be able to play in the morning, right?
Most of these guys are doing a night feeding.
Exactly.
Timothy from Perth, Australia, joins our vast live stream tonight as we visit with Hans Olsen.
We've been hitting 5 continents on a regular basis on the live stream on Monday nights. That's how vast BYU's fan base is. So fun for us to be. To have you on with us and to be all over the world and all over the United States with this. And BYU has fans everywhere. which is amazing to us every week when we do this show.
Yeah.
Hey, project the future here. If BYU can beat Baylor and they have a bye week, and then it's Arizona and Oklahoma State, be night games here in Provo before going to UCF, and then the Utah game isn't far off on November 9th. What's your crystal ball tell you for the next month?
Well, we always move the dial as analysts, right? I mean, I couldn't have been further off to start the season with what I projected. I thought they would start potentially 2-2. And here they are at 4-0. So we are always able to move the dial because nobody's perfect in projections. And right now, I have moved the dial to a 7-win minimum. You've got 3 wins in there, whether that's Houston, whether it's a mixture of Houston, Kansas that looks very vulnerable, beating Baylor on the road, and maybe Arizona State, finding a big win against Oklahoma State, going back-to-back years and beating your rival twice, and finding a win against University of Utah at Rice-Eccles. Like, there's a combination of 3 wins left in there. Nobody can convince me otherwise. If your defense is going to play like this, nobody can convince me otherwise. There's a minimum of 3 wins.
Yeah.
But there's almost an expectation of 4 wins. So I've moved my minimum to 7. I have moved my expectation to 8. And if there's 9 or more, you drive your truck to Kalani's house that says Brinks on it. You get out of it, you knock on his door with every booster that is available and Kevin Young, and you say, how much do you want? What do you want? Because second year in the Big 12, finding 9+ wins, he would deserve everything that you could ever imagine. And then you make sure Jay Hill is taken care of and that he's not going anywhere, because as you all know, there's going to be some jobs open up. And Jay Hill is going to be the prime candidate for all of them. You do not let Jay Hill leave Provo. Do not let him leave Provo.
If BYU has 9 wins, they're going to be in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, that's
with a
very
chance
likely
to go to the playoff. I mean, a 9-3 season in this league, you're going to be one of the top 2 teams that are playing in the Big 12 championship. That's actually possible, whereas a couple weeks ago we would be saying, well, maybe in a couple years.
Well, Hans, I had them 3-1 in their first 4, and I had Kansas State as their least likely home game to win. So now they're 4-0. And I had them, I said 6.5 was the over-under, but I said 7 is what I think should be expected of them, but I wouldn't be flabbergasted by 8. So now that they just beat the team that I said was their least likely team to beat at home, yeah. I don't know if I can even wrap my head around what my expectations are right now.
It's like, why not?
Yeah,
guys, it totally changes everything. It just changes the idea of what this season can be, and it leaves you with so much hope and so much optimism. And it's not fluky. But people might say, "Oh, well, the Kansas State game was a fluke because how many scoop and scores are you going to have?" Well, it was a fluke because how many times will Tyler Batty intercept a pass? When you've got players like Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasker, Harrison Taggart moving around, when you've got interior guys that can hold it down, I'll tell you how often it can happen. It can happen every single week. Because I watched it happen with Rob Morris. I watched it happen with Shane Yearbrook.
Yeah.
So I know what can happen when you've got great fronts and you've got linebackers that are active. They can change every game. It's not just going to be a fluke. Now, Parker Kingston bumbling a punt and scooping it, going back to the 3, running for our total of 137 yards.
All right, a little flukish.
That's not going to happen every week. That's not happening every week.
That happened in 11 years, yeah.
Yeah, Kelly Popinga's not on the headset saying, "Hey, let's. You remember the punt return last week? Let's run that.
Let's
back.
do that again.
Drop it, and then go back and get it."
Oh no, good. Well said. Well said.
What a moment.
Hey, by the way, we just mentioned we have Australia in the house. We also have Japan in the house tonight. Corey Yoshimura from Japan just checked in. So we got Japan in the house, Australia in the house. Where else are you, folks? Let us know.
All right, Hans. The Talbots are waiting from Texas. They're joining us next with all the alumni activities ahead of the Baylor game. We've got 5 questions. presented by Strategy Square. No really questions tonight, but Strategy Square delivering connection, clarity, and confidence in business and marketing strategies. Owned and operated by a BYU alum who's helping wise guys conquer the world. We've asked Hans to come prepared to reveal the top 5 NFL players from BYU in program history.
And there might be some
obvious ones, but I think he's going to have some surprises.
If number 1 isn't who I think it is, I'm gonna beat up Hans when I see him. So, but anyhow, one of my teammates.
I'll buy a ticket to that.
Let's start with 5, Hans, and I think I know who one is, but maybe not. I don't know, maybe not. So.
I don't know. I don't think you're going to be able to guess. I don't think you could guess my top 5.
All right, let's go.
Okay, give us number 5.
Number 5, Bart Oates.
I might have guessed that because I took a lot of snaps from Bart. Remember, Bart was my teammate.
He's got 3 Super Bowl rings, right?
Yeah, I put Bart in my top 5 too. Absolutely.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because people forget that he's Super Bowl rings with 2 different teams and a Pro Bowler and NFL player rep, and people forget about Bart Oates, and he was a phenomenal center in college too, and a great pro, and people forget, but I don't forget because I played with him. I took snaps from him.
Was it 9 or 10 years in the NFL?
I think it was at least 10 years, and then he's been a part of the NFL ever since because he's been the players' representative to the NFLPA for years and years. So,
well, he's amazing. He's one of my idols. Love the guy.
Bart Oates is number 5.
Number 4, Todd Christensen. We're talking about our BYU NFL boys, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So here's what people don't know about Todd. Not only did Todd lead the league in receptions for tight ends for 2 years, he led the league in receptions for 2 years.
Yeah.
Tight ends don't lead the league in receptions. Yeah. Todd Christensen did it twice. Of course, both Pro Bowlers. I think he was a 5-time Pro Bowler. And I broadcast a lot of games with Todd Christensen over the years. That is one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen in my life.
He is one of the greatest humans that's ever lived.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest athletes. He was the best host of American Gladiators.
Yes.
He was an incredible mentor when he'd come out to our practices. You want me to give you a classic Todd Christensen line?
Yeah.
Okay. And I hope my buddy doesn't mind me telling this. I don't think he will. My buddy, my best friend in college was Carlos Nuno, tight end at BYU.
Yeah.
And Todd was out at practice. And Todd was telling Carlos, this is what I want to see in this route. And Carlos had been coached by another tight end, another BYU tight end. And Carlos said, oh, well, this guy said this. And Todd said, well, what do you want to be? All pro or all provo? Because I'll teach you how to be all pro. And that's all it took. And then, Carlos threw everything else aside, and it was all Todd Christensen. I loved Todd, and I love his son Toby. Those are great people. And the fact that Todd is not on this earth is a crying freaking shame.
Yeah,
I miss him, and I miss him as a broadcaster. I miss him as a human being. Anyways, I don't want to get emotional over it.
No, I got to hang with Todd a lot because we did games together. We did some BYU Utah games together, he and I and James Bates, and I'd go on the road with Todd. We'd get in a car, say we're going to Laramie. We'd get in a car in Denver and drive 2 hours to Laramie. We wouldn't even turn the radio on because Todd would he would lay wisdom on me, and I would love every minute of it. I miss Todd too. Yep.
Todd Christensen at number 4. By the way, Bountiful, Utah, South Carolina, and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Cougar fans on the live stream tonight.
We're going for 50 states and 5 continents tonight is what we're going for.
Number 3. What do you got?
Number 3, I call him the Madonna of the NFL because he continues to reinvent himself, and that's Kyle Van Noy.
Wow, Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kyle Van Noy.
I don't know why I was thinking Jim McMahon is the Madonna of the NFL. But.
Hey, Van Noy was awesome against the Cowboys on Sunday.
He's playing great still.
Yeah, Kyle Van Noy he has gone from a Pro Bowl linebacker to now a Pro Bowl defensive end. And that's really hard to do. And I have just been impressed with him from his high school film. I evaluated his high school film coming out of Las Vegas or coming out of Nevada. I was out of Reno, I think it was. And it's still, to this day, it's the best high school film I've ever watched. Number 1. I've never seen somebody more dominant at the high school level. And then watching his evolution through BYU, where he had to sit out a year and stuck it out and then fought his butt off at BYU, and now what he's doing in the NFL. Guys, he is spectacular.
Elite pass rusher for sure. That's for sure.
Yep.
So
that's a big one at number 3.
That's a big one. Kyle Van Noy at number 3. Who's your number 2?
Number 2, I'm going Steve Young.
I don't know how we don't have Steve at 1. I'm not going to argue with you, but
that just sets up a very
he's the only
dramatic
NFL Hall of Famer from BYU. So there you go.
Steve's going to be with us in 2 weeks. We will not.
I won't tell him that you said that when he's here. So,
but why Steve at 2?
I'm going to go Stevie at number 2, and he was great when he come to locker rooms. We all loved him. He was a jokester. He was comical. He's a total locker room dude. A lot of fun. Yeah, obviously you know that, Blaine. How funny the guy is. He's, you get him in the locker room and he's just his personality shines. So. Yeah.
At least Bart has two. He's with Bart and Steve. That Hans has 2 of my teammates on this. So thank goodness for that.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a golden era.
And you could argue Steve number 2, but I go with my heart for number 1.
Okay.
Lay it on us.
Let's hear number 1.
Number 1 NFL player that comes from BYU is Jim McMahon.
Oh, 3 of my teammates. There we go.
In my book, nobody will beat Jimmy Mack. And it goes past him as a player or past him as a person to him as this untouchable entity when I was in 8th grade and a freshman in high school and impressionable and watching Monday Night Football and it was the first time I'd really heard BYU. My Uncle Orrin went to BYU, but didn't talk a ton about it. And it was watching Jim McMahon was like that was BYU. Being it attached to him and knowing well for it. And to me, that was kind of the early, some of the early introductions to BYU. And Jim McMahon's another one that I don't know him well. I've only met him a few times, but he's another one that I'm just emotional about. Everything he goes through, and he's a bit eccentric where he golfs without shoes, and he's got an eye condition that forces him to wear glasses, and he's, it's like everything about him. He came back and graduated from BYU like 1 year after I went back and graduated from BYU. It was kind of this whole reintroduction of former BYU guys trying to get degrees. And I just am fascinated by him, Blaine. I don't know.
I'm not going to argue either of those. Those are both teammates. So Jim was a senior when I was a freshman, and I learned as much about football from Jim McMahon as any coach that I ever had, because he called me kiddo then. He still calls me kiddo. So every time he sees me, he puts his arm around my neck and he goes, "How's it going, kiddo?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm an old kiddo now," but I love it because it's endearing, right? And he used to come out from throwing 7-on-7, and then Steve would go in, and then he'd come over to me and he'd put his arm around me and he'd go, "So what are you seeing? What are you seeing? And see when the corner does this, this is how you make this read quicker. See what the safety's doing, how he's rolling over there? This is how you do that." So he took the time to take a little freshman and teach him the game. And so I've always appreciated that about Jim, one of my idols. I got to play with one of my idols for a whole year.
That's a great list, Hans. I do have one follow-up question before we say goodnight. What does Taysom Hill have to do to break into that top 5? Because as unique as he is, somehow he's going to end up in the Hall of Fame because of all the different things that he's done. What's he got to do to get in your top 5? A couple more years of it?
He's done it all, and he should be there. It's just there's just something about these 5 guys that it just sits real heavy in my heart. I don't think any of these 5 will ever be unseated. I wish BYU fans could know who the real Kyle Van Noy is.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish they could know who the real Todd Christensen is. I wish that they could know these men like Blaine, like you know them. There's something so beautiful and so amazing about them. And I'll tell you, Blaine, I got to be a part of that 96 reunion.
Yeah.
Saturday night.
And I hugged a few of my old teammates, and I could not stop the tears from coming through the eyes. I was embarrassed about it. I had to jump off the headset from the broadcast to even go spend 8 minutes with them, and I hugged as many as I could. And hugging Shea Muirbrook and seeing his smile and hearing his laugh, and seeing James die with that big smile and still in great shape. And Keokiao Louis, he was the life of the party. And there's something beautiful about it, Blaine. And Dave, I'm sure that you've got all kinds of connectivity and experiences like that where it runs so stinking deep.
That's what makes it great.
Incredibly deep. Yep. And that BYU brotherhood is very powerful.
Such good stuff, Hans. And yeah, I love your top 5. And there's guys that are representing great, like Fred Warner's the best linebacker in the game right now, right? And if he keeps this up, he's a Hall of Famer, And we're talking about Taysom, and there's so many good people that are out there representing BYU. I love your list. I wouldn't change anything. That's your list, and it's exactly how it should be.
Hey, we hope you have an awesome trip to Waco, the birthplace of Dr. Pepper,
and by the way,
one of my mission towns.
And by the way, Hans, Chile checked in while you were on. Debate Libertario says, "Hey, I'm watching from Chile." So.
That's incredible.
You got Australia listening to you tonight. You got Chile listening to you tonight. You got Japan listening to you tonight, and all over the United States.
And Cougar Nation will be listening to you on Saturday.
That's right.
Well, Blaine, you know, and Dave, the only way to have a good trip to Waco, Texas. You both know.
Yeah, got to win that, baby.
You
and have barbecue.
There's no such thing as a good road trip with an L.
That's right.
Especially when you're calling a game with Greg Wrubell.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Oh, yeah.
Those are quiet.
Yeah, he's like wearing a mood ring, right? Like, if they don't win, I don't know what the bad color is.
Dude. He may be more competitive than the three of us put together.
I think you're onto something there.
You're so right on that one. So,
Hans, thanks for joining us tonight. We love having you on the show. You do a great job on your daily radio show from noon to 3 across the state of Utah on 97.5 FM, and of course, Greg's tag team partner on the radio for Cougar football that goes all around the world as well. So nice job. We love being an associate of yours and a friend, and we're glad you came on the show tonight.
Love you both, honestly. You guys do great work, and I love your commentary. I love your thoughts. I love your excitement for the Cougars, and just to even be considered for the show, it does my heart a lot of good. Thank you.
You're the best.
Right back at you, Hans. We love you, brother.
We'll be listening from Waco. Thanks, Hans. There's Hans Olsen. Played a defensive end at BYU. We called his touchdown. Whoever got that touchdown against San Diego State. We were there on the call there, and he's good at what he does, and it's great that he'd take some time out for us here. And with that, let's bring in our next guest. They're spearheading the alumni activities in Waco this weekend as BYU returns to Baylor for the second time in a couple of years. Our pleasure to welcome back to the Wise Guys, Dave and Debbie Talbot. Hey, sorry for making you wait. You can blame
that's
Hans.
all right. Fine.
In fact, when you see him at the game, you can go,
hey, you can say, Hans, we were waiting for you, man.
Guys.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us. It's like a reunion show because we've done this before.
We have.
And it's great to have you back. What'd you think of that game, which you were both at on Saturday night?
That was an amazing game. Absolutely amazing game. We had so much fun cheering. That stadium was loud and the fans were crazy. It was really, really fun.
Where did you guys sit during the game? What was your vantage point for
the Kansas
north end zone by the Kansas State fans.
So you were right down there for the muffed punt pickup, run across the end zone, back 100 yards for a touchdown play.
Yes, yeah. We were real nervous when he muffed that punt.
Yeah, how did you see that one from your vantage point, and what was it like for the Kansas State fans when he did this?
Oh, I think they were getting pretty excited.
Yeah, I don't think I looked their way. I was feeling for Parker, just like get on that ball. I was worried it was going to go in the end zone and they were going to get it, but. Yeah, it was one of those moments as you're watching, you're just like, oh no, oh, that's looking better. Oh, if he gets the corner, we're in great shape, and then just cheering like crazy. So.
How about that? From where you were sitting for a few minutes there or seconds, he was actually running towards you, and you're sitting in the Kansas State end zone, and his end zone is 100 yards away, and then he does that turn, and then the stadium just exploded. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So what? We know you're big fans and you follow it closely. Heck, you fly up here for games. BYU 4-0, ranked number 22. Was that your expectation for this team, or what do you think of this team so far through 1 month of the season?
I would say I was not anticipating 4-0. So they have exceeded my expectations. I will say I've been to 3 of the 4 games, and so I'm 3-0. So I'm going to the game in Baylor, so hoping to keep it at, get that 4th win. So
over
Nice.
there at SMU, we got word back about 10,000 BYU fans got into that one. What do you guys think will the number be on Saturday in Waco?
Well, I think the big win this past weekend, I've definitely seen a lot more, people looking for tickets. I know they sold out the BYU allotment of tickets. I'm still expecting, 3, 4, 5,000 BYU fans.
Really?
I love it. And that's a pretty fun environment. It's a nice stadium to play in, a fun stadium to play in. So that would be great if BYU could, because I know that many can make a difference. You can be loud. What are the alumni activities surrounding the game this weekend?
Well, our tailgate is going to be from 8 to 10. I think it's the earliest tailgate that they've ever had. But with an 11 o'clock start, we didn't have a lot of other choice. So we've had to pivot from Rudy's Barbecue to Rudy's Breakfast Tacos. But it'll be a really yummy breakfast. We've got fruit and juice and all sorts of stuff. We'll take good care of the fans.
I was gonna ask you how that affects the because you can eat barbecue anytime, but these are Texans at a Texas game, so you have to start with breakfast. So it's breakfast tacos.
Yep, there is an option for brisket breakfast tacos, so they can still
Oh,
get
there
their
you go.
brisket.
I knew it.
Yeah, that sounds.
It's Rudy's though. It's Rudy's, right? So
Yeah.
wait, is Rudy's? Does Rudy's have places in gas stations? Because to me, the best barbecue in
Yes.
Texas is always at a gas station, right?
It is. It's a gas station.
Gas station, picnic tables.
That's-
So.
That's
And
awesome.
Dave served his mission in Texas. He's the one that taught me this. That it's not really good barbecue unless it's attached to a gas station. So
Rudy's fits the building.
It's the mixture of barbecue sauce and unleaded fuel. I don't know what it is. But. So that's the menu for the tailgate. How many do you think you'll have at the tailgate? And can folks still just show up and get in?
Absolutely. We've sold just over 200 tickets, and we anticipate we'll probably have at least 300 walk-ups. We'll buy some extra food for people that didn't get a ticket before we had to shut down ticket sales. We'll have extra T-shirts at the game for fans that want to come out and get a T-shirt. And then we've got just a bunch of fun activities. So it should be a good time.
do you have a unique T-shirt for this game? For because Dave and I got the BYU Texas ones from the SMU game. Oh, this is the one. Do you know what?
Yeah, this is the one we sent you last year.
We have that.
Unfortunately, we haven't this year's is being printed here in the next day or so. Otherwise, I'd be wearing that one.
Yeah, I
that's
still
right.
wear
Those are
wear
awesome.
that one with pride, and I give you guys credit for that, by the way, Dave and Debbie.
Yeah,
So-
our shirt is a royal shirt. It says "Game Day, y'all," and has a stretch Y at the bottom.
Nice,
day,
I
y'all.
love it. How about the service project this year?
Yeah, so our service project, we're going to be working with a local charity called the Shepherd's Heart. We actually haven't worked with them before, at least from an alumni association perspective, but they're located in Waco. It's a food pantry, so they're focused on gathering goods that they can then distribute, and it's the largest faith-based food pantry in Central Texas.
Wow.
So we'll be gathering food, and so it certainly would encourage fans, BYU, Baylor, to drop off canned goods or boxed food at our tailgate.
If for folks who aren't going to get to the game, how can they participate? Is there a website or what?
Yes, their website, I believe it's the Shepherd's Heart, shepherdsheartpantry.org, and they can make direct donations to the food pantry if they'd like.
Well, BYU fans, they love.
Yeah.
They'd like to leave a
Doing
place
stuff.
better than they found it, which we love. And they really supported. We were talking about Avery Johnson, Kansas State's player, who was raising money for his former principal to help with his cancer treatments. And BYU fans stepped up big time and are helping him get to his goal. So it's really cool.
And the service project up in at SMU got on the local news, and that one was really cool too. And wherever the team goes, and we did this. Remember last time when they were at Baylor, they just the alumni like you guys out away from here do something great.
Yeah.
Make a mark. BYU was warmly received last time they came to Waco. What do you think it'll be this time?
Yeah, it was a great experience. We helped with the tailgate back in 2021, attended the game, and it was very friendly, and I think it was very positive. I think one thing I'll share is last time around I'd reached out to the Baylor Alumni Association trying to make connections back in 2021, and I didn't hear anything back, and so I was like, yeah, okay, we'll just pass this. this time around, when I reached out to them immediately, they responded. They were super kind. Were excited to work with us, and so it was even that much was like, oh wow, they're welcoming us into the Big 12. So
that's good
cool.
to hear. Yeah. Hey, they didn't know about us back then. Now they know about us. So this is good.
We put the link
so
on
I think it's all positive. I think their fans and teams. I think from a Big 12 perspective, I'm expecting a good game and great environment.
And Cougar fans, we've got the link to Shepherd Heart on our live stream, so you can go there, click on it.
Yeah, and hopefully there's a way you can put in, hey, we're BYU fans in your donation there so that they know.
That's right.
Alumni.
I think there is a way you can put like for in behalf of, and you can probably
there you go.
Cool.
Like
Dave and Debbie Talbot are on the Wise Guys tonight, presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. This is your second appearance on the show. That makes you a first, so congratulations.
That's right.
And we expect
First of the alumni. So Hans has been on before.
Especially, from the alumni.
You're the first alumni folks to come on twice, which is awesome.
And we anticipate you'll be on several more times. As now we're playing in Texas all the time. But here comes the big questions, and I know you've been prepared for it. What are the keys to a victory on Saturday? And Debbie, let's start with you, and then Dave, we'll shift to you. And we're writing these down. We're going to revisit these.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I appreciate. Let me go first, so he doesn't take mine. Okay, I'd say my first thing is we got to have good first downs. It seems like we kind of struggle on first down a little bit, and then we get to third downs. We've struggled on third down. So I'd say if we can get our first downs to get more yards, set us up for success.
Okay,
I think that would be helpful.
It's a good one.
Hey, that's one of my keys. Better first down production. I'm loving this. Keep going, Debbie.
I'd say Jake has to take care of the football again. He did last time. It turned out great. If he can just keep control of that ball and not have fumbles and turnovers, that really helps.
Ball security for the quarterback. But she is so on point right now. I don't even know what Dave's going to say. So
there's nothing left.
So okay, keep going, Debbie. You got one more. 3 keys.
Okay, one more. I said if our defense can keep them under 15 points again, that's the most anybody's scored against us all season. So
I love it. Keep them 15 or under. Yeah,
this
very good.
This defense has been awesome.
Dave, I don't know how you're going to follow this. I don't even know how you're going to follow it, but you're going to have. Can you come up with 3 more?
We're all ears. We are all ears.
Yes. All right. I know. Good luck to me. Right.
Right.
All right. So my first key to the game is we need the defense to continue getting turnovers, which obviously against Kansas State set up the offense for short fields, quick scores, which was awesome. So
defense forced turnovers. The BYU is one of the top teams in the country at forcing turnovers this year, and that's why they're 4-0. So I like that. That's a good one.
Yep. And then the next one I had was Jake didn't have a great running game, last game, which wasn't necessarily needed, but I believe against Baylor, I think he's going to need to make some plays with his legs.
So quarterback run game important. I like that.
Yeah, just getting maybe some important first downs or just helping the running game.
Yeah, Baylor's quarterbacks are big time involved in their run game, so need to have Jake offset that. I like that. And what's your number 3?
And then number 3, I was loving Moa and what he was bringing to the running game. So I'm hopeful. So my third key would be continued improvement of that rushing game, to really put more pressure on Baylor where they can't just focus on passing.
Sounds like you want Moa.
Yes, yeah. More.
And Sione averaged 5.1 yards a carry against Kansas State. If he can do that again, I think BYU is in business.
Hey, those are 6 awesome keys.
Those are great, you guys. You guys thought this through and came up with 6 great keys. We appreciate it.
Next Tuesday, when we revisit these keys, we'll give you a shout out.
Yep, that's right.
To see how
if
they
you hit
play
them on
out.
the nail, we'll grade the Cougars on how they did against your keys.
So on a game that starts at 11 a.m. local time, and the tailgate's at 9. Did I hear right? 2 hours before?
8.
Is it? Oh,
8 to 10. Yeah.
8 to 10.
Then they get to go into the stadium and get ready.
The stadium. It'll be a different kind of vibe because it's so early, but it seems like it'll be just a super cool morning in Waco. You looking forward to it?
Oh, yeah. We're so excited. We can't wait to get this going. I think the fans are going to love having a place to come before that game and getting together and celebrating how well our season's going so far, and having some breakfast tacos. I think it'll be lovely.
I love that idea. Have you checked the weather for Saturday? I saw when Utah was playing at Oklahoma State, and I know that's further north, obviously. It was 100 actually on the thermometer, and the heat index was 104 at that game last Saturday. Please tell me it's not going to be that in Waco this Saturday.
It is not, and it does help that we have an early start. For our tailgate, it's only going to be 69 when we start at 8 a.m.
That sounds so much better. Yeah.
Beautiful.
What
Right.
about for game? What about for the game? What are they saying?
The high for the game is about 81 at the hottest point of the day. So that would.
Well, this is pretty real, but yeah.
Okay.
So probably 80s.
80s, maybe low to mid 80s. So that's much better.
Oh, that sounds way better than 104 heat
if
index.
the Cougs are ahead, it'll be a little hotter on the Bears. In their own stadium.
So
we appreciate everything you guys do for the Alumni Association and for all the Cougar fans in Texas. We know you have a big area that includes Austin and Waco and all of that. But we thank you for coming on our show and for all you're going to do this weekend. We'll hope to get the word out that where folks can help with this service project, as we always try to do. And we're just glad to have you guys part of the Wise Guys family. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Go Cougars.
Okay, see you Saturday. Hey, when you see Spencer Linton, when you see Spencer Linton, make sure he gets a breakfast taco.
Yeah,
he's so much better when he's fed.
And tell him that you hang out with us all the time, because we don't let him hang out with us. We send him on the road. So,
thanks, guys. Thanks for being here.
All right,
thanks.
Those are the Talbots in Texas. They'll see you at the tailgate in Waco on Saturday morning, and again, they expected 4,000 BYU fans,
4,000 to 5,000.
And it's not the world's biggest stadium. 4,000 fans and a lead, you can make a lot of noise.
Yeah, and they sold 200 tickets to the tailgate, but they're going to get enough food for 300 walk-ups, so they're expecting 500 at the tailgate, which is awesome. So it sounds like the weather's going to cooperate a little bit.
The alumni are so good all over the world,
fantastic,
and they rally around and that the crowd at SMU was spectacular. Wyoming had a huge turnout in Wyoming with BYU fans and everybody having a good time. The cheerleaders come to the tailgate. President Reese pops in, and it makes folks who aren't here feel close to home. And we love that. So we thank the Talbots for being with us. Our Cougar Board question of the week. If you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans with thousands of posts every day. This question comes from the 435, one of their insider subscribers, who writes, what aspects of this team are special and should get us dreaming about what this season could be? And what aspects of this team are still concerning and should keep us a bit grounded going forward? So I get a feeling 435 isn't quite sure if he should.
He's not all in yet.
Is he ready for liftoff, or does he need to stay on the ground?
Or it could be she. I don't know.
Or she, yeah.
Either
one.
Yeah. So what's special about this team? We just talked about this with Hans Olsen. This linebacking core is a special group, and BYU's had phenomenal linebackers in the past. But I'm hard-pressed to find three better than these three right now as a unit, with Taggart and Isaiah Glasker and with Jack Kelly. They are playing at an elite level. I feel like they're playing as good as any linebacker unit in the country. And there's even talk now. Mel Kiper just put Jack Kelly in his top 5 outside linebacker draft prospects for this next year. He's only a junior, by the way.
It's pretty good.
And so I think it's really special. And this defense, in terms of their assignments and how they play and how physical they are, this through 4 games has been an elite level defense. Remember, folks, Kansas State had been on an 11-game streak of scoring 28 points or more, and they have not had a game where they haven't scored a touchdown in 4 years. That's how good BYU's defense played this last Saturday and how good they are. And SMU's not used to getting shut down either. Remember, SMU didn't score a touchdown, and you realize that they put 66 on the board last week?
Yeah, against TCU.
Right.
A Big 12 team.
A P4 Big 12 team. They just put 66 on the board again. So I'm a believer in this defense. I think is special. Where do we need to stay grounded? Sione Moa was a revelation this last week. I don't call it good. I don't call the run game good.
You want to see it again?
Until I see it a couple more times.
Yeah.
And so I'm still concerned with BYU's run game. Can they be solid at running back? Can he go out and get 5 yards of carry again this week? Can BYU rush for over 100 yards on a consistent basis? They don't have to be lights out. I just want them over 100 yards on a consistent basis. So that's where you want to that's where I'm still, the judges, the jury's still out on that one.
Hey, let's go to the live stream. Trenton says, first time listening live. Love listening to your podcast. Here's the thing, Trenton. When you join us live, you get a shout out.
Yeah, you get a shout out and you get to add. Like if you have a question, hopefully we ask it. So.
Awesome. Let's take a look at the Bears in our last 20 minutes or so. They are 2-2 on the season. They beat Tarleton State 45-3. They lost up here at Utah 23-12 in one of the most boring games known to man. They beat Air Force 31-3.
I love they said what's boring for the man.
Yeah, it was. And then they got beat in overtime to Colorado 38-31. You heard Hans talking about that. A Hail Mary at the end of regulation to force OT for Colorado, and then the Buffs beat them. So they're licking their wounds from that one. They've been good at home against teams they should be good against, and they've lost on the road against two pretty decent teams. Vegas, never mind Kansas State and what BYU did to Kansas State. Vegas has the Bears between a 2 and a 3-point favorite,
which is really interesting to me. But
yeah.
We called Vegas out on our shows this last weekend saying,
we're going to get started getting followed
you guys
around.
Haven't been close.
Yeah, they're 0-4.
They're not only 0-4 and picking, like they picked BYU to win.
But not by the right points.
But by not even close. Like they've been 20 points off on some of these games.
It's weird for Vegas to be off like that.
Yeah, and so I think they're off again. I do think Baylor is a really good physical team defensively. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't see any game breakers on that side. I see a bunch of really good athletes that are solid. When you look at them on film, the thing that scares you is they're really good defensively and they're really solid defensively. So you can't afford to turn the ball over when you're playing against a good team defensively because you're not going to have that many possessions anyhow. Baylor wants to run the football. So it's a team. Sawyer Robertson, Hans mentioned him, and Sawyer Robertson as a quarterback, he wasn't the starter. Finn was the starter at the beginning of the year. After that Utah game, they went, you know what, we're going to go with the transfer. And they put Robertson. He's a big guy, 6'4", 220. Against Colorado, he led them in passing. He had 148 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. He also led them in rushing. They run a lot of RPO stuff, run pass option, where he pulls it and runs it. 82 yards and a touchdown rushing. Here's the most impressive thing. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't have a interception. And he's played in a couple games now, 463 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's averaging 154 yards a game. This team's not going to wow you throwing the ball around. They want to play great defense, and they want to run that RPO and run the football. They want the quarterback involved in the run game. It's not a flashy football team. And so BYU's got to play really physical because this is one of the more physical teams in the league, and they have to take care of the football in this one.
Boyd says, I'm driving to the game from Leander, Texas with my son. Excited to see the team. Hoping for the best. Go Cougs.
Boyd, get up there for that tailgate.
Yeah.
300 can just show
tacos
up.
And get brisket on there.
Was it from Rudy's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a perfect day, sunny in the 80s. Uniforms, BYU's going to go with the white helmet, the white top, white pants, royal trim. It's the 4th straight game they've been in the all whites.
That's right.
And they're not going to be in the blues until after the bye, and we're in October.
That's right.
Until we see the Cougar Blues.
So
that doesn't happen ever.
Historically, this BYU Baylor, the last meeting was 2022. BYU 26-20 win in 2 overtimes in Provo. That was against a ranked Baylor team. And then the last meeting in Waco was in 2021. Baylor with Gary Bohannon as their starting quarterback, and this was the Big 12 champs. By the way,
that was a good team.
38-24. That game. The only thing I remember about that game, that Baylor was really good, but that nobody could cover Puka Nacua.
No, he was unstoppable.
Like, BYU wasn't great that game, but Puka Nacua, I just went, this is, like, he's playing at another level. Like, he's a man among boys out there.
Got his first touchdown in that game.
Yeah, he was ridiculous.
And there was a different thing because BYU came in ranked.
Right.
Because they came off those big wins. And Baylor was not ranked.
Right.
And so they kind of flip-flopped, and Baylor, they were licking their chops. This was their game to get it right. They got it right. They went on to win the Big 12 championship. BYU finished, 10-3 in 21, something like that. But they got thumped that day.
And it's a really interesting dynamic. And Hans described the dynamic that Baylor's coming in under. They were ahead in the game. They gave up a lead. They give up a Hail Mary to end the game to go into overtime, and then they lose in overtime. And they're going to come out of there. Like, what kind of a mindset? That's hard to recover from. Now, BYU on the other side, you have to guard against, and Kalani mentioned it in the audio that we put on, in the video that we put on at the beginning of the show, where you've got to guard against a letdown after having such an emotional, sky-high win against a ranked opponent coming into your place. So they're coming from opposite places, but both have the big job of coming back to the middle and coming and playing in a game and being solid and not being overhyped or overdown coming into the game.
Let's get your 3 keys to Baylor. And by the way, Dr. Derwin L. Gray wants to get in on your keys.
What is he saying?
If the BYU defense holds Baylor to less than 140 yards, BYU wins by 21 points or more. That's Dr. Gray. And you know what? He was spot on his picks.
Yeah, he really was.
So thanks, Dewey, for
appreciate that,
getting
Dewey.
in there. So we're going to make a note of that, and we'll follow up with it next week. So what are your 3 keys to beating Baylor?
And some of them are the same that Dave and Debbie rolled out for us. I say win the turnover margin battle.
Okay.
And I just mentioned this. Because Baylor hangs their hat on defense, and they play good defense and they want to run the football, you don't have as many possessions. You cannot afford to give those away. The ball is life, right? You don't give away the football. So turnover margin is important. That's my 1. Number 2, take what the defense gives. So in other words, as this game starts and you're Aaron Roderick up there, you're looking, are they going to put 8 in the box and just say you're not going to run the ball? Fine. Then throw a bunch of quick game and get the ball out and throw the ball. Are they going to drop back and say you're not going to throw it against us? Then you're going to have to run the ball. So you have to be really smart and take what the defense gives. I think you're going to need to make them to defend the short game early in the game, because they're going to stay on top of things, and then you'll get them to creep up, and then you can get some big plays over the top later in the game.
Okay. All right. And number 3.
Number 3 is no big plays over the top for Baylor. Baylor's a grinding team. I don't see a tremendous number of just lightning quick game breakers. You cannot afford to give this team big plays. Either side of the ball. Don't give them a pick 6. Don't put the ball on the ground and let them scoop and score it. But on the defensive side for BYU, make them earn points. Make them kick field goals when they have drives. Do not give big plays over the top. If Baylor doesn't get some big plays over the top, I don't think they have enough offense to beat BYU.
All right, those are Blaine's 3 keys to beat Baylor. We'll revisit them next week and see how he did. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night, on After Further Review, we're going to break down the Kansas State game. I'll show you what worked, what didn't, explain why. We're going to look at Parker Kingston's punt return from every angle we have. We got a whole bunch of them. We'll also chart the distance he covered, and we're going to have a good time with that. We'll take an early look at Baylor. AFR streams at 5 Mountain Time Tuesday night on the BYU TV app and ESPN Plus, and it'll stay there so you can watch it as many times as you want.
Yep.
It's going to be a super fun show. When you're 4-0 in the top 25, you have fun shows anyway.
Yeah.
But there were so many bizarre plays in that game.
So fun.
That we're going to break them all down for you. That's tomorrow night.
Yep. Hey, and then Saturday morning on game day, I'll make sure you join us there. We're going to kick off 2 hours of pregame coverage. We're going to start it at 8 a.m. Mountain Time on BYU TV. Means you and I are going to be in studio at 6 a.m. getting ready for that show.
I hope we're having breakfast.
We'll go to bed
tacos
early on Friday. Let's have some breakfast tacos and get on the air. So join us at 8 a.m. Mountain, 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be live in Waco, Texas from inside the stadium with Spencer Linton and in Provo in our studios. We'll go back and forth. Kickoff is at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on FS1. And the live post-game show will follow the game right after on BYU TV. Come back to us there.
This last weekend in the Big 12, we mentioned Colorado beat Baylor 38-31 in overtime. Utah beat Oklahoma State 22-19. The Cowboys were a no-show. Isaac Wilson played great for the Utes, and the defense was tough. But I think everyone in the league was stunned with how little of an offense Oklahoma State managed to muster. Now, Utah's defense is good, but Oklahoma State was terrible.
No, and here's the thing. Bauman, their quarterback, I've actually never seen him more off to start the game. But I have seen him off before, and he's a little bit streaky. He's like a streak shooter in basketball. He might miss 3 or 4 or 5 throws, and then all of a sudden he gets hot and he throws like 10 balls like he's just throwing BBs at a target right in the middle. And they benched him at halftime.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that was the right decision by Gundy and the crew, because he finally came back late in the game, and then he completed a bunch of balls and was throwing great balls, and they came back and got the thing close. I feel like they should have just stayed with him and let him play his way out of the little funk he was in, because that to me cost them the game, 19-22.
Cincinnati beat Houston 34-0. Texas Tech beat Arizona State 30-22. West Virginia rallied to beat Kansas 32-28. Curtin Herbstreit, by the way, just released his top performing coaches of Week 4, and Kalani Sitake's on the list.
Oh, there you go.
As he should. And a shout out to Herbstreit. He's the only one on game day that
he picked
thought
BYU.
BYU would beat Kansas State, and he was right. BYU in the top 25 with some other Big 12 colleagues. Utah's at 10, Iowa State's 18, Oklahoma State 20, Kansas State 23. And we're thinking, who in their right mind would ever guess that BYU would be in the top 25 of 133 Division I programs this early in this season.
Yeah.
And here they are at 22.
And they have a chance to go and win this win this game and go into a bye week at 5-0 and be ranked for the next 3 weeks and really be in a great position to come back and play Arizona. Is that a night game?
They haven't announced it, but you know it will be.
That's probably.
They love that late window for Utah
BYU
or
goes
BYU.
and get Baylor in the morning, and then come back, and at that point maybe they're. I think they go right into the top 20 at that point, right? Maybe even closer to 15 because people are going to start believing. And I would not want to be Arizona coming in to play BYU at night when they're 5-0.
Oh yeah.
So
if you thought it was electric the other night.
Yeah. Let's talk about this week's Big 12 games. Number 22 BYU at Baylor, which is the headliner for all of us, right?
Yeah.
But Arizona is at number 10 Utah. Arizona's kind of had Utah's number lately, but it's at Utah.
And it's late, 8:15, 8:30.
Yep. So number 20 Oklahoma State is at number 23 Kansas State. That's kind of the marquee game between two ranked teams this week. Can Oklahoma State bounce back?
They both lost last week. They were both considered contenders for the conference championship. Right. One of those teams is going to be 0-2.
It's an elimination game. It's an elimination game. Do you know who my money's on for that one? K-State.
K-State.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I think K-State bounces back. Number 18 Iowa State's at Houston. Houston's struggling a little bit.
Yeah. Iowa State's legit.
Iowa State has my vote for right up there in the top 3 most physical teams in the league.
Yeah.
They're really, really good.
TCU's at Kansas, Cincinnati's at Texas Tech, and Colorado's at UCF. Keep your eye on UCF.
UCF's the dark horse. Hans mentioned that. They're offensively are playing lights out. That's kind of old style UCF. So they're my dark horse of the league too.
Cougars in the NFL. We're getting ready for Week 4. We do love football. On Sunday, it's interesting that so BYU is going to play Baylor, and Gary Bohannon, who left Baylor, is on BYU's team now, but he's probably not going to play unless Jake gets hurt or if he gets a route. Although I would love for them to get some plays.
Yeah,
for
that would
Bohannon.
be fun for him to play.
So the Broncos are going back to play the Jets.
Yeah.
And Zach is on the Broncos now instead of the Jets, but he's likely not going to play either.
I wish they would play him.
Dang it, yeah.
So
that would have been
Broncos
good.
at the Jets. I will say that Aaron Rodgers played pretty good last week.
Yeah, the Jets look good.
Yeah. Vikings at the Packers. Zane Anderson and Chris Brooks, both with the Packers right now.
The Saints, Taysom Hill, not sure if he's going to play next week. He's been out with some chest stuff. Jamal Williams, though, he's good to go. The Falcons, it's Saints at Falcons with Tyler Algier. How about we get Tyler 20 carries?
He looked good last night. Why not give that guy the ball?
Trade him. You know what would be great? Tyler Algier to the Chiefs.
Oh, he'd be good with the Chiefs.
He would be spectacular with the Chiefs.
Although the Chiefs have 2 good guys.
Still. Well, Pacheco's out for 6 weeks.
How about, that's true. How about Tyler Algier to the Niners?
That too.
I'll take that.
Because you never know with McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And he's out for a while.
That's what I'm saying.
Somewhere, how about Tyler Algier with anyone who's going to give him the football?
Let him run the ball for Pete's sakes. So, yeah, you're right. The Bengals with Ryan Rico, who's like going to, I say that guy's in the league for like 18 years, like Lee Johnson, 19 years. Ryan Rico, the punter for the Bengals, at the Panthers with Brady Christensen.
Steelers are at the Colts with Blake Freeland.
The Rams, Puka's still out, right?
Puka's still out, but somehow the Rams beat the 49ers without Puka or Cooper Kupp.
I know, that's crazy. They're at the Bears this week.
Commanders and Michael Davis are at the Cardinals with Kyrie's Tonga.
And then the Patriots are at the Niners with the great Fred Warner.
I wouldn't want to be the Patriots this week.
No, I wouldn't either.
The Chiefs with Kingsley Suamataia and Andy Reid are at the Chargers.
And then
you know what? Next Sunday night's going to be a great game.
And wrapping up Bills at the Ravens. Kyle Van Noy with the Ravens. That's a Sunday night NBC game.
Yeah, that's going to be one to watch.
Fun.
Some campus notes. Men's basketball. And by the way, we had Kevin Young on our Game Day show. And he was awesome. And you can see that. Go to BYUTVsports.com and their YouTube page, and it's sitting right there for you. A few minutes with Kevin Young. He had his Jake Retzlaff jersey on and was good to go.
Yep.
Today, CBS Sports in the Big 12 expanded their television partnership for men's basketball through the 2026-2027 season. It includes 20 games a year on the CBS Sports Network, kind of like what the WCC did.
Right.
And you usually end up costing us a couple of games because they'd come take a few BYU home games during the regular season conference play. CBS has already committed to 6 Big 12 games a year on the mothership.
Right.
and they could expand on that one. But the rest of it is with CBS Sports Network. And then, of course, the overall picture is with ESPN.
Right. ESPN has the rest of the Big 12 basketball package with the combination of all of their outlets, including ESPN Plus, which you and I will do a bunch of games for.
Yeah.
So
Marriott Center Madness is October 3rd at 7. There's no, it's not on BYU TV, so it's an event to just go hang out and see the team.
Kevin Young said it's going to be pretty fun. You got to come. So we'll have to stop by. October 9th is a blue and white game.
Now that one's a good one.
Yeah, that one is at 7 p.m. That's going to be live on BYU TV. That will be your first chance to see some of this talent. And let me tell you, I've been to practice. It's crazy talent on this team.
We're looking forward to that call. It'll be a fun one because it's blue against white. I don't know if they're going to switch guys in between and all that
will
stuff.
They divide them up even? We'll see.
Well, we'll see on October 9th. And we'll also see on October 30th for Colorado Christian at BYU. That's an exhibition game at 7 o'clock Mountain Time on BYU TV. So that's October. So, you know, I think it's kind of cool that we have some October events.
Yeah. Instead
of just starting in November with the buzz around this basketball team.
Be fun to see these guys for real.
Yeah, so that's coming up.
Yeah, hey, women's volleyball is 7-3 now, and they're nationally ranked at number 17. We're just used to seeing this women's volleyball team ranked.
Yeah.
BYU swept Utah State, Weber State, and Utah Valley. This week, Colorado's at BYU. This is the Big 12 opener. That's Thursday night at 7 p.m. Mountain. And then Texas Tech's at BYU Saturday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Those both are on ESPN+.
Let's see. Women's soccer, they're 3-4-2, 1-1 in the Big 12. TCU beat BYU 4-1 in Fort Worth last Thursday. TCU is pretty good, a contender in the league. Tonight, the BYU and Utah playing at South Field. And you can check in on that on ESPN+. I was just checking my phone. I think they're starting in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then Thursday, Oklahoma State's here in Provo at 7 o'clock Mountain Time on ESPN+.
Hey, women's cross country nationally, they're ranked number 7 right now. Their next event is the Joe Plain Notre Dame Invite. That's October 4th. That's at Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana.
Men's cross country, they're number 2. And they're Friday at the Neticome Invitational in Madison, Wisconsin. So they're on the move this week. By the way,
number 2.
2 in the country.
Yeah.
Last week there was a unique football game played in Arizona, and it was ALA Queen Creek against ALA Gilbert. Ty Detmer's the head coach at ALA Gilbert, and Max Hall is the offensive coordinator at ALA Queen Creek. So they used to be on the same staff, and then they said, Ty, you need to go over here and save this program. And so that's where he is. And Max's guys beat Ty's guys 21-0.
But wasn't that expected, though? Because didn't they send Ty over to rebuild that program?
Yeah, he's going over to fix some stuff.
So Ty left the program that Max is still at,
and
Queen
Max
Creek,
is still rolling,
and they're in great shape.
Yeah,
and then Ty went over to fix this other one.
But remember, we had Max on. And he said he was going to, he was going to win that game.
He says he loves Ty, but there's going to be no mercy. That's what he said.
21-0. Ty falls to Max. We'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, now give Ty some time.
Ty's got some
he built Queen Creek into a powerhouse. Let's see what he does over at ALA Gilbert.
Let's roll out with On This Day, September 23rd. And by the way, on this day, it appears that Utah State has been invited to join the Pac-12. The new, I'm just checking.
This is breaking news.
What Pete Thamel's saying, yes, Utah State is committed to join the Pac-12. So the Aggies are saved, so to speak.
Right.
UNLV is on the fence as we sit tonight. They need one more football school to get to 8. And they got to have 8 to be able to be a G5 conference. They won't be P5, P4. But there's also buzz that Gonzaga may go. And Brett McMurphy had tweeted out that they're going to go to the Pac-12 and they're going to get a full payment even though they're not bringing a football team. That's how bad the Pac-12 wants. Well, then some other reports came out and said, yeah, that's premature and that's probably not going to happen. So
we'll have to see. Yeah, it's going back and forth.
Pac-12's all over the place. But Utah State's going to go in.
Imagine if Gonzaga comes back. This is a good basketball conference if Gonzaga's in it.
Yeah. I think they're grasping at straws.
Right.
But if they get Gonzaga, more power to them. Now, that would be a devastating blow for St. Mary's and the WCC.
Absolutely. And what happens with the Mountain West?
Yeah, I don't know.
Does it go away?
Well, and an Air Force, the American was trying to get Air Force, and they said no.
Yeah.
So what are they staying back for?
Yeah, are they going to?
And then Wyoming's just going, does anyone want to be with us?
What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? What about
So
New Mexico?
that's going down here tonight. Hey, that football in
Yes,
front of you. Let's talk
right
about
here.
that for a moment. So we're doing an auction for Ephraim Hope Missions project that they've got going on in Uganda. We did the golf tournament. Remember, the Wise Guys were the title sponsor, and those great folks helped raise a lot of money. And Hinckley Rapati was on the show with us before the season, and then he went and got this football signed by the team that is right there in front of Blaine. They auctioned one off at the golf tournament, and then they gave us this one to auction off. So we've got a silent auction going on that we would love for you to participate and raise money for these Ugandan children to go to school.
Yeah, it's a great cause. So submit your silent bid. And so you can just go to our website, wiseguys.com, click the contact tab, and place your bid and include your phone number on that bid. And what you're bidding on the ball. And that will end Sunday, October 6th. The winner announced will be on our live stream on Monday, October 7th. And it's all going to a great cause to help these kids with the cost of school.
And right now, that ball has got the signatures of a team that's 4-0 and ranked 22nd
That's
in
right.
the country.
Here's the thing. This thing might be a steal before it's all said and done. What if this team wins a Big 12 championship in year 2 in the league?
What if they go undefeated?
And here's the thing. If they win a Big 12 championship, they're going to the college football playoff because there's 12 teams now.
Yeah. There's no. They're just automatically in.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I'm
That's what it
telling
feels
you,
like.
because I'm telling you there's a chance.
So look, we've got some bids already in play. I think we have 9. Hop on there and get involved.
Add yours to it.
We're doing it for a great cause, for kids you'll never meet, but they'll always be grateful for the boost they get to be able to go to school.
That's right. That's right.
So that's what we're doing. We're trying to be we're trying to be good neighbors.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
what the Wise Guys are, good neighbors. Okay, on the rest of, so the expansion of the Pac-12, we'll see what goes on there. It has to be good news for Utah State, just because it just keeps them alive.
Yeah.
And everyone's fallen so far back from the P4s. And BYU and Utah are P4s. And so Utah State's got to do something.
Yeah.
To stay
Just to
relevant.
stay alive.
Plus, it'll make my kids happy, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, they're all. Yeah, your kids all went to Utah
They're all
State.
there. Yeah. All right. Here's one. On this day, September 23rd, 1387.
Yeah, we're going way back.
1387.
We're going way
This
back.
is old school.
Yeah, King Richard's Feast. Do you remember this?
I had to look it up.
One of the most extravagant medieval English feasts ever recorded. I don't even know who recorded it, but it was for Richard II and John of Gaunt in London. The menu items included 14 salted oxen, 120 sheep, 1,200 pigeons, and 11,000 eggs.
Did they eat pigeons back then?
They were a delicacy of some sort.
Yeah.
I
How
mean,
about that? The oxen,
What's the
I
difference
guess,
between
that's
a
like
pigeon and a
steaks.
quail? People eat quail. Why not a pigeon?
Yeah, maybe that's how that went down.
Yeah.
In 1387.
No, I don't eat quail.
11,000 eggs.
I don't
What do
eat
you do with
quail
that?
or pigeon.
What do you do? 11,000 eggs. What do you even make?
And I don't know that I'm going to eat a salted oxen either. I don't know.
I don't know. It's like a steak.
Is it?
It sounds like it is.
Okay.
And the 120 sheep. Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
So let's go right from 1387 because that was big.
That was big.
Let's fast forward to 1957.
Buddy Holly's "That'll Be the Day" hits #1 in the U.S.
That'll be the day when you say goodbye. Yeah, that's the one, right?
That's the one. 1962, the Jetsons premiered on ABC, and now all the gadgets they had are for real.
No, they're not.
Like our cell phones.
I thought
except
by
we
now
don't have a flying car.
I thought by now 2 things that I wanted that were my favorite things on the Jetsons that we do not have.
What?
You take out a little pill, you put it in the microwave, and you have like a turkey dinner. We don't have that.
Are you sure that hasn't happened somewhere?
I have not seen it. I want to see it.
All right.
Then my flying car.
Yeah, they're working on that.
I know they're working on that, but I want it. So
Okay. Well,
I thought I'd have
we'll
it
keep
in my
you
lifetime.
posted
So
on that.
1969, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid premieres in the United States. That is one of my favorite all-time movies.
Hey, Michael says people eat crow also. That we do know. People
Well,
do eat crow.
Michael, I've eaten a little crow myself.
2009, Modern Family premieres on ABC.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So 2018, Drew Brees completes his 6,301st career pass, breaking Brett Favre's record for the most in NFL history
How about that?
on this day in 2018.
And Taysom Hill and his wife babysat his kids.
Yeah, they probably did, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they did. Birthdays on September 23rd, 1930, Ray Charles.
1949, Bruce Springsteen. A lot of musicians here.
Yeah, 1959, George Costanza, a.k.a. Jason Alexander.
1962, John Harbaugh, the Ravens head coach.
Yeah, he's a good coach.
Yeah. Yep.
Those Harbaughs can coach.
Yeah, that's a great coaching family.
On September 23rd, some notable deaths. In 1902, John Wesley Powell, explorer, Lake Powell, named after him.
Lake Powell. 1939, Sigmund Freud, the father of psychology.
Where would we be without Sigmund?
Yeah, I think therefore I am. I don't know if he said that. Did he say that? I don't know who said that.
2020, Gale Sayers, Bears running back. Movie Brian Song, Sayers and Brian Piccolo, one of the great sports movies of all time.
If you have never watched highlights of Gale Sayers when he was playing and at college at Kansas, right? So Big 12 guy, and then with the Bears, it's unbelievable. Like his game would translate to today. His ability to make people miss and his speed and his quickness. He was a phenomenal player.
Our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week is from Gale Sayers.
Gale said, "I don't care to be remembered as the man who scored 6 touchdowns in a game. I want to be remembered as a winner in life."
The great Gale Sayers.
I do remember that he did score 6 touchdowns in a game, though.
You know who else was good? OJ.
Oh,
you know, his life became a mess, but when he was a football player, no one could tackle him.
And here's the thing. This is the difference. Gale Sayers' life never became a mess.
No.
He's a great man. So,
hey, thanks to Hans Olsen, BYU alumni reps for the Baylor game, Dave and Debbie Talbot. They were all three of them were live here on our show tonight. They were fantastic. Next week, Riley Nelson will be here to assess the Cougars. Dick Harmon from the Deseret News will stop by. He was our very first guest.
That's right.
2.5 years ago, and we're working on some basketball guys as well as we get close to that.
Yeah, people. I saw in the chat days people were saying, "How about Michael Smith?" I'll try to get Michael. We'll get him on. He'll be great. And then somebody said Norm Chow too, and we can work to get Norm. Norm would be really fun to talk to.
It'd be fun to have Norm on. We've got some great guests coming up. Steve Young will be here with us in 2 weeks.
That's right.
The presidents of BYU and Utah are still on the docket. We're getting close to that, and we're looking forward to Kevin and Melissa Young as well. So,
hey, and don't forget Dave's book, C is for Cougar. It's available at DeseretBook.com. There's a legend behind every letter. Sits right on my desk, so I'm looking at it every day.
And I explain why there isn't a Fowler on F.
Yeah.
Because of the Phantom Forti. Now, if the Phantom wasn't as good or nicknamed the Phantom, then there would have been a case.
I know, and here's the thing. You know how much I love Eldon Forti and his son Darren. Darren was a teammate of mine. My dad and Eldon Forti, when I was a baby, Darren and I lived right next door to each other in Wymount Terrace when my dad and Phantom Forti were good friends.
Fantastic.
And then Darren and I played together. How many years later? 20 years later.
Small world.
Yep.
Small
so
world.
I'm all good with Phantom Forti being the F and C is for Cougar.
We will see you Tuesday on After Further Review on the BYU TV app and ESPN Plus at 5 Mountain, 7 Eastern. And Saturday we'll be on the air at 8 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time for BYU Sports Nation Game Day. 2 hours of live coverage. Spencer will be at the stadium in Waco. We'll be in the studio. I don't know if we'll be eating breakfast tacos, but we'll be eating something.
We expect, you folks in California, we expect you to get up and be on the show with us at 7 a.m.
7 a.m. In Hawaii, don't even go to sleep.
And you can stay in bed and have breakfast in bed and be in the show with us on Saturday morning.
Watch the show. Yeah, absolutely.
So
this is going to be a different one for us because it's so, Saturday night was so late.
Yeah. This is
and Saturday this week,
yep,
so early. Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus, and it's distributed by the Deseret News. And we're done for another week. What a great show.
We'll see you tomorrow night on AFR, and we'll see you Saturday early.
Thanks, guys.